Recording in progress.
It's a meal, some employees.
I
I don't
think
know
she's
that.
home health, Andrea. Why is this not?
Let me see, was there a map?
Yes.
Those numbers?
No, not the last four. Well, I'm gonna have to make double check.
That would be that.
But yours. Really, yeah. Yeah, three.
That's the big version. You want me to call him, Bill? These are. Yeah, I never seen those.
Yeah.
The devil one. Is it just that the camera isn't where we want it, or is it not? It's not picking up that camera. Not recognizing it. Sound doesn't look like it's got power either.
The phone doesn't look like it's on.
Was been. Oh, is this something that should be plugged in? Oh, that was on the floor too. Let me plug this in, Bill. I think kind of might stand away.
Oh,
It
it's all disturbed. I noticed it was rolled, so something.
was
We need
even more disturbed. I didn't look back there, but this was like,
Yeah,
That's not what I tried
it's
to-
usually pretty smooth.
We need to do something different with these.
yeah.
That's the way to go.
Oh, 8. It's not the 8th month.
One of these for me, anything?
Let's start
with the big
breakdown.
one.
We usually don't see these. I don't know if you. I don't know why these these are more like what Bobby Joe sees versus what we see. I've never had these come before. So I don't know if they they were in between stuff, if they just got picked up off the desk with the other paperwork, is my assumption.
It's like they bought a trailer.
Yeah, I just think it got picked up with some other paperwork and included in ours accidentally.
I'll check with, they're both road department. I'll check with.
Yeah, they look like stuff Tammy would usually handle.
The things that I noticed that I wasn't familiar with is that under the DA, there's something called Carpool Solutions, and that was like 2750. Is that like some kind of victim services thing, or? what?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
And then Triple R Investments was 3566.
And that was
And
the
I-
009.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that was.
So she was. In 6, 7.
Well, that was a good meeting.
I wonder what for rural health plan budget. Oh, it's just a little bit. 1,000.
Sometimes they give away.
Okay. 009. 009 is courthouse maintenance and triple R is our custodial contract.
Oh, that's our.
That's
that's
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that part we don't recognize it.
Yeah, it's new. Who's getting one? That's so, it's in your paycheck.
Yeah, we always have.
Okay. We'll probably turn that off since you have it
Yeah, because that was prior to us doing that.
getting cell phones.
Mhm. Yeah, good catch. That's a lot of people don't call me on the other number because they haven't quite transitioned.
So I got carried around with me and it was the 1 hour I left it in the other room or something. Is when people text or something, I'm like, oh.
I won't get a call all day long until I'm on a call with somebody else.
seems a little hard, weird to have that under. Yeah, what would they have, I think we ought to just double check that one to make sure it wasn't miscoded or something.
Um. Yeah.
Unless there's
I can
something that
see.
sticks out to you, but like, I just don't know why they, doesn't seem like a natural intersection.
Yeah, and I've seen one of those charges. I think it might have something to do with their new hires. And physical or something,
With the new requirements.
Maybe.
Or, okay,
maybe, but I'll double check on
no,
that.
I think you're probably on something, because there was some new requirements.
Yeah.
around that.
Well, yeah, and they weren't sure how stringent they were gonna be. They were gonna be as stringent as a patrol deputy or,
Right, it wasn't very clear when it was initially rolled out.
yeah, but I'll,
Okay, that probably was it right there. That makes sense. Wasn't think about new requirements.
space.
So here's one.
These.
They'll start up at some point.
There was juveniles. Pharaoh. Library. But the one downstairs with the machine is separate, you know, but still they're all part of the same movement. Remind me of Dad. See where it's at. Yeah.
Take it off of the pledge of allegiance, they're all like the guns. Pledge of allegiance, flag salute, whatever it's known as.
Good morning, everybody. Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. Harney County Court is in session, and if you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, got some. It seems like it's been a month since our last, because we skipped a week. It seems like it's been a month since our last county court. We got some good topics to cover today. We'll start off with agenda approval from the September.
Today,
Yeah, sorry, my brain going here. For today's agenda, September 13th, 23.
No, there's
Um, Make a motion to, okay,
Move to approve the agenda.
and I'll second. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed. Hearing none, motion carries. Next item is minutes approval for county court session August 16th, 2023, and the special session that we held just real quick on August 23rd, 2023. That special session was just to amend the Crane Water and Sewer District
Hearing dates.
order. Yeah. And it was quick.
I move to approve the Harney County Court meeting minutes of August 16th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? And motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
I move to approve the Harney County special session meeting of August 23rd, 2023. Second.
Motion been made then and seconded to approve special session minutes from August 23rd, 2023. Any further discussion? And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next topic is opportunity for public comment. Anybody in the public that would like to address the court?
Look at that. Looks like you're gonna say.
Please state your name and
Rick Paul Burns. I was intentionally loud because I Zoomed this meeting 2 meetings ago. And one of the things that I noticed was that the people from the audience did not introduce themselves. Because I knew who was there, it was easy, but for your records, people are not introducing themselves. And I found out that they're not speaking loud enough for that to pick up. You guys do a great job, but the audience material was not picked up well at the meeting I was attending. One. Two, you had TVCC. Things I did not hear from them was their adult interaction with adults in Harney County. They talked a great deal about kids, teenagers, and that, but they didn't talk about classes like that the extension doesn't have, like master gardeners that could get accessed by adults, welding, carpentry, a lot of other classes that could be accessed by adults, but they did not talk about them for their $10,000 that we were paying for people to be using their services. So I was a little disappointed in that. And thirdly, we have SEAC coming up. Is there anything that the board wants with transportation issues that either Bill or I should be addressing at that meeting?
Do you know what the major agenda focus will be?
There didn't seem to be a good focus. There was 3 or 4 items on there that were pretty spread. I have several things I intend to bring up. I have intentionally driven all of the public highways in District 5 that I can find, except Fields to Delano. And I intend to get there, but I'm trying to see what the services are like with if they are painted well and those kinds of things. And I find most of the roads to be very good. Not a lot of potholes, not a lot of stuff. So this area I think is doing well. But there are things I specifically am concerned about. Relationship between District 5, which we are, and District 4, which is the Bend one, because we do share a highway 20, and what they do on their impacts over here intensely. If you all know, since we drive that road a lot.
I would just like you to please bring up again that we would like to have some additional passing areas between Harney County and Bend on Highway 20 because of the danger that is happening and the accidents that are happening because of impatient drivers and long passing lines to pass. So I know sometimes it may be that they have to do a study and there have to unfortunately be deaths. Well, there's already been some deaths. So if you could just see what they can do and, you know, not make them wait.
And it's on my list.
Thank you.
And I was presented with a project, not quite sure, maybe you can advise on how to introduce a potential project.
Well, and I'm concerned about the fact that we were told that they were going to close Buchanan and Sageham. We were not asked for our advice, and according to their specific information that they gave me when I became a member, we were to be asked, not being told. So I want to discuss that a bit on how the public is supposed to interact with the Department of Transportation.
And just for the record, the last word I got on those rest areas is that they're not going to be closed through this year. They're funded through this year.
When I talked with Senator Lynn, he said that he had a 2-year promise on it, but nothing beyond 2 years. So I'm not real sure that we shouldn't be working pretty hard on the Department of Transportation at this point on both of those. But specifically Sageham, it's the only decent rest stop between them and Ontario. And it's, if you ever drive by there, I drove by there the other morning, about 6 o'clock, and there was like 12 trucks in there, and obviously overnighted, and 4 or 5 vehicles that appeared to be sleeping in. So it's huge. And I think that I'm thinking of what I think the Department of Transportation is doing.
And if you can just get yourself on our agenda after your meeting. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Judge Hart, participates too, but we could hear your report out.
Will do.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Not seeing any, then we will move along. Old business. Topic is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And I don't see, what's the lady's name?
Irene, no, and she presented to us on this before. So the background that I was asked to find out on this was I had my conversation with her, was where the funding came for and what were the actionable items. And so as I talked to her, the BIF, the BLM agency, the Blues, their agency fire district is the one that funds this. And so it's funded through the BLM. Some of the, when Jacob Gear was still around with the Rangeland Fire Protection Agency, he was the one who had initiated this process to begin. It's now under another gentleman who I'm not as familiar with. But that's where it initiated from. This was a plan that had been in place but hadn't been updated in a while, and so it's mostly updating. And as you can see, even like materials from the BIC with our socioeconomic piece are now included in this. And the process that they want to follow from now on is an annual updating to make it a living document to keep materials current in it. High Desert Partnership intersects with this as well, where the High Desert Partnership Collaborative with the Wildfire Collaborative uses this information as they go out for funding and some of their projects. The pods information that the collaborative works on is included in this document. And so that's an actionable item plan-wise as they're looking at trying to create pods for targeted areas of control that's going on, especially with Medusa Head projects that they're doing. And so it's
I presume we can cite it as needed when we're having discussions about fire hazard mapping.
right. It's a
mitigation
reference
purposes.
for a lot of that material, so it kind of has a home for it. And she does hope to keep it updated annually, which she said she's actually planning on doing at no charge to the group. She wants to see it stay current so that things can continue. So what she needs from us is just a signature saying that we acknowledge that the plan has been presented and that we agree with the material in the plan.
But it'll serve as a foundation document to a nexus to other.
Yeah,
other
and I
purposes
talked to her, about the Soil and Water Conservation District and a lot of their work. And she said, as we update it, we could put more of their juniper removal stuff into there that currently isn't maybe mentioned directly, that is ongoing in the community. And so there's some things that, we're already seeing that can be added to it. And she said that it could actually even be added to it, sooner than later, but
I just was reading from last week, Senator Merkley is introducing a bill on wildland fire mitigation type efforts, forest and rangeland. So I was curious if work that's been done out of this will help in funding from that bill and efforts from that bill,
it
because we've
will,
identified
well, especially
areas.
like with the pods project that the High Desert Partnership has helped develop. Those give you direct, specific target areas that need addressed. And so with those kind of funding dollars with range, especially, then you can go and say, hey, we already have designated projects that need treated, and be able to go out for treatment dollars. And then same with the juniper, and so it allows quite a bit of work to continue on what we've had funding for, which we're always looking for continued funding to keep getting it done. So this will be of great benefit to us, and hopefully people understand that it is a living document. So if you see anything in it, or desire to have additional things added to it, please just.
And I did a deep dive on it when it first came to us a couple months ago, and it's good.
Yeah. I agree. And in my reading of it, it's pretty detailed on it.
It isn't a plan
Identifying.
like, an action
Yeah.
plan, but it is a plan in that nature of a plan.
All right, so then, if everyone has had the opportunity to review it,
Yeah, I move to approve the community wildfire protection plan.
I second.
a motion has been made to approve the community wildfire protection plan as presented. And has been seconded. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries.
So then it'll go back to the group that worked on it. The additional signatures will be added, and then we can record that as a final document once the signature's been obtained. So you could just contact Irene and let her. That's what you need to.
All right, that takes care of old business, new business. First thing, we would like to recognize some students, intern members from this summer that Harney County had the honor and the ability to participate in the internship program this summer, partnered with the High Desert Partnership. It's great. I'm just tickled all the way around, warm fuzzies on this project, and hopefully we can carry forward in years to come with it. I'm already seeing some offshoots from it, really. So again, Harney County Summer Intern Acknowledgement and Presentation. First off, I want to recognize and make sure that I don't miss anybody, but I want to recognize those students that we did have this summer. From the Juvenile Department, Danny Clark. Sheriff's Department, Marissa Medley. Library, Cassie Allington. Cassie, sorry. DA's office, which is not present, but recognize Akila, Kenyo. Huh?
Taylor.
Sorry, Akila. Okay. I believe she's already back to school, so she's not present. And OSU Extension intern Taylor Baker. She's not here. All right. I'm gonna kind of just start off, maybe turn it over to High Desert Partnership.
There's another intern. Okay. No, so.
Yeah, girl.
I'm gonna turn it over to High Desert Partnership and let you guys kind of talk about the program where we look like maybe we're going next year or whatever with it. And yeah.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Denise Rose, in case anybody on Zoom land doesn't know who I am. I'm with the Youth Changing the Community Collaborative supported by High Desert Partnership. And if I might beg your indulgence for a 2-minute update on the high school internship program. We do have 40 kids registered. Kyla is one of those. So she'll be working through the school year up in the DA's, or at least for this semester, up in the DA's office. And we've added a handful of new businesses. So very exciting. We've got some great opportunities. And we thank the 50 businesses and agencies who are already registered to provide internships, and they're growing every day. We had a meeting yesterday for a great new potential internship. The summer internship project was sort of a pilot for us, I think for the county and for us both. Our preferred target group, if you will, was, which means something very different from Marissa, target group, right? College age primarily. A summer internship gives a full-time opportunity and it's paid. So those were kind of the things we were focusing on when we heard from the county, probably a little earlier than we had planned on starting the summer project, that there were some identified students and there were some identified needs in your county departments. And so that was great. We really appreciate how fast you guys jumped on making that happen. We were able to partner to bring some funding, and you guys did the rest of the work. So I'm not going to talk any longer because I know these guys are dying to talk about their programs. Who would like to go first? I will. Danny Clark, who is in the juvenile department with Brooke, Hadley, and Riley.
You have an HDMI plug that she can put it on the screen.
Is Jeremy?
Can you email it real yeah, email it real quick like, and then I can. Okay.
If you have yours on a flash drive and want to go, no.
She's got an email going.
Okay. It's taken a while to fire out. I was just.
This
It's trying.
Sometimes we have.
Yeah.
Marissa's got hers on a flash drive.
We're gonna take it too.
right here.
Probably got it.
Oh, there it is. And it didn't had a little protection thing on it. I didn't have it pushed in all the way.
It'll be yeah, so one regular. I just fighting.
There a full screen option, or is that it?
Yeah,
You're probably just gonna.
Okay.
okay, so
I did the internship at the sheriff's office here in Harney County, and I first started in January, and so I've been here for about 9 months. So, like I said, I started in January, and I got to go through each different department in both the sheriff's office and up here in the courthouse. So I spent time in dispatch, like the different areas in the sheriff's office, because every job in the sheriff's office is very different from each other. And then I did all the ones in the courthouse, which like I said, about the sheriff's office, everything's very different than each other. And I only had about like an hour and a half each day that I was here, so only about 4 days a week, which kind of sucks because there wasn't much time
Sorry.
each time I was here, but we kind of made do with what we had. So there was still a lot of stuff I got to see.
I'm sorry, I'm messing this up here.
You're testing those skills.
Yeah.
I apologize.
What'd I do?
I don't even know how to help you. I'm not good at technology myself. Like I said,
I've never seen it before, Bill.
What did I click on?
When are we split the screen?
You should be able to, the X next to pages on your right. There. And then, your magnifying glasses down on the bottom right. Hit your plus.
Yeah, why is it?
It's a-
I
and
got
then,
two.
Go back up to, there you go. And you just have to page.
okay.
Okay, I'll leave it alone.
Okay. You can just go down to this.
There we go.
Okay, yes. So the first department I was with was 911 dispatch. I was there for about 3 weeks-ish. I didn't have to answer any of the phones. That would have stressed me out. But I was able to use the radio and like talk back to the officers that were on duty. And I got to use our computer-aided dispatch system, which was tons of fun. My second department was the civil deputy, which was Stephanie Frisbee's job. And I got to learn about the different, doing the CHL process for the concealed handgun licenses and how she gets the civil papers ready to be served to people by the deputies. The third department I was with was circuit court. I was there for 2 weeks and I got to fill out release agreements during arraignments, and I got to make the schedule for the arraignments the days I was here. And I didn't really get to see a whole ton because, like I said, I was only here for like an hour and a half. So I wasn't here during a lot of the court times because they were at just different times than when I was there. But I got to see, like I said, the arraignments. The fourth department I was with was patrol, so I was out on the road with the deputies, mostly Deputy Tiller. That one was probably my favorite department. I used the radio. I got to see different traffic stops and how you approach the vehicles and stuff. And I got to see the arrest process for person. And the fifth department I was with Justice Court. I didn't do a whole ton of Justice Court. That one was kind of tough if we didn't have traffic court going on, and that was never at the time that I was there. But I did get to go through old files and make sure that they were actually put in correctly. So I got to kind of learn about the different old cases that we had. The sixth department I was with was juvenile department. I liked that one a lot because I got to see how different it is from the adult version of like parole and probation. I got to see like the juvenile side, like kids I knew. So that was an experience. The seventh was the district attorney. I got to see how the district attorney Hughes went about cases and how he talked to people and how he used evidence. And that one was fun because going on patrol, I didn't get to see as much evidence because I didn't get to see too many cases. But with the DA, I got to see a lot of different cases and situations. The eighth department was parole and probation. I mostly got to learn about how they approach people when they're on patrol or on parole and how to talk to those people because a lot of times they're in not great situations. And I got to go on a home visit, so I got to actually see what they do when they go out and talk to those people on parole. And then the last department I was with was corrections. There wasn't a whole ton I could do because I was only 18 at the time, so I could go into the jail, but I couldn't, like there had to be something between me and the inmates, and such. And so I got to learn how to use their fingerprint machine, how bookings work, and like the different policies that they have in the gym. During my time in circuit court, I would stand up here in the top part and I would fill out the release agreements, which was a process at first because I would always mess up or I would like constantly be like, wait, what did they say here? But that one was really fun. And I got to actually like sit in the courthouse and watch it all happen, watch the process, and that was really cool. When I was down in the sheriff's office, I got to actually see the taser training and do the taser training. So I first got to see Deputy 2 get tased, the corrections deputy. And I felt bad because it looked painful. But then I was told that I'd be getting to use the taser on one of the dummies. The way the prongs go is they go straight up and down here because they have 2 prongs. And I had shot it and I had one that went straight in the middle of the back, which is a good shot, but I wasn't told that you're supposed to angle it a little bit, so it'll get back in like the thigh. And so it was a bad shot, but they told me exactly why and how to fix it. When I used the radio, I was at first very nervous to do it, especially when I was on the road with Deputy Tiller. And so he constantly asked me, like, do you want to use radio today? Do you want to use radio today? Because I had a badge number. And I kept saying no because I was too nervous. And then he finally told me, like, you're using the radio today. And so I was like, screw you, Deputy Tiller, but okay. And so I called over the radio and I said 421 dispatch because that's how we used it at the time. And then I heard the call back for me to go ahead and I called 12-1, which meant that we were in our vehicle and we were in service to go do stuff. And when I heard the dispatcher call back and give me my timestamp, I could hear Kirsten Fossum, the 911 dispatcher at the time, cheering me on in the background. So that was a confidence booster. We can go to the next one. One of the things I did get to see on the road was I got to see an arrest for somebody who had failed to register on time. And so I went out with Deputy Russo and Deputy Tiller, and I couldn't get out of the vehicle for safety reasons, but they had parked the spot or the car in a spot where I could actually kind of see it. I did feel bad though, because so it was me, Deputy Russo, and Deputy Tiller in one vehicle, and we have 2 front seats and then the cage in the back. So one of the deputies had to sit in the cage, and they're both way too tall to sit back there. So, and they can't put me back there. So but it was still a really good experience to see. One of the things I got to do when I was on probation was wear a vest. Neither of these pictures I'm wearing the probation vest because we just didn't get a picture. But it was a home visit. She knew I wouldn't need it because it was a person that I was able to go see, but she still offered and I was absolutely yes. And so then when I started going out on like patrol for real, like actually going out spending hours out on the road with the deputies, I was given that vest, which I still have, and then I've only worn that one once or twice. And so I go out and I get to actually wear the vest so I can leave the vehicle.
Yeah.
This was me after it was like my last day of the school internship, and we posed for a photo with the 3 deputies, and I got my completion certificate. And then for graduation, I ended up dedicating my grad cap to the sheriff's office, and I'm going to go play softball at Church Valley Community College, so I also had to do that. And I don't know how it happened, but they ended up posing in the same order as we did in that last photo. I don't know how we did that, but we did it. And so that was graduation. The paid internship before the summer, I was actually planning on working for the BLM. I was going to do the air tanker based job, or I would end up doing some kind of admin job. And then I had been advised that the sheriff's office would be doing a paid internship, and I was kind of like, okay, BLM, I'm going over here. Because it would benefit me a lot better when it came to my future careers and college and just anything I needed. And so I took that job instead. And I've gotten to do a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do if I did the BLM job. I've learned a lot of the things that I'm actually going to need in the future. And so I'm very, very appreciative of One of the things I got to do, or I've gotten to do this summer, was I got to go to a rifle training, and they do it every 6 months. Is that what it is? Where you have to do a rifle training and get qualified again and again. And so I got to go up with the deputies for patrol and the corrections deputies, Sheriff Jenkins and Lieutenant McLean. Deputy Tiller was kind of the one running it mostly, and so he did a lot of the teaching part for me. And I got to do the 100-yard qual, which I did not pass, but luckily I'm not required to carry one, so I didn't need to pass it. So I got to learn how to do the prone position, which is where you're laying on the ground, the kneeling position, and I got to learn how you're shooting when you're walking backwards and forwards and type of stuff. One of the things I got to do recently was I got to do a full shift with Deputy Russo, which started at 1 p.m. and went to 12 a.m. And I was able to almost see what a DUI process would have been, but they ended up not being intoxicated like we thought. I met OSP Trooper Caldwell, and he's awesome at the job, so it was cool to get to see how OSP comes across things and how they approach different situations. And I also got to see a fully intoxicated person and what they do under the influence of methamphetamines, which I've never seen one of those before. I'm gonna have to see them in the future, so that was kind of actually a good experience to see what it can do and how different it is from day shifts. Another thing I got to do was we got a call about a bus that had been broken down on the side of the road on Highway 20. So I went out with Deputy Tiller, and when we got there, it was a bus full of a children's choir that was touring the US, and they were from Nigeria. And so we get there, and their pipe and their coolant had broken, and so they had coolant just spewing everywhere, and that was why they were having issues. Which they had a guy there that was actually really, really good with mechanics. So he was able to figure it out and fix it. And we were mostly just there to make sure they didn't get hit by passing cars. And the whole time we were there, the children's choir were singing, and they were really good. Like I even mentioned the deputy, I was like, they're really good. And they were really appreciative once we left. So it was kind of nice to get to see the side of there's no law to enforce, none of it. It's just you're helping these people get back on the road and get back to where they need to go. That was kind of fun. A lot of the different traffic stops I've gotten to see have been very, very fun to get to learn about how they go about them. I've done a lot of calling over the radio and reading license plate numbers and driver's license numbers. During the school internship, I didn't really use the radio as much, like I said, but I did get the privilege of writing a citation. Deputy Tiller was telling me what to write, but I got to do it myself, which was very fun to get to see how they actually write it, because it's not like how you would expect a citation to look. You have to really read it to understand it. Some traffic stops have been a little bit more fun than others. Some of them have been very boring because it's just, you weren't speeding enough to get a citation, but you were speeding. It is.
So what's the rule with that?
With the citation, how
fast you can go?
We have inside track. Say that they speak or say that they don't speak English, and then like the deputy will come back to me, and then once they go back, the person will be able to speak complete fine English. So it's kind of funny how people do that. They're always saying their cruise control is set for 73, 75. Nope, we got them going over 80, and it's like, well, ridiculous. Thank you. Still at 75, you could get pulled over. If you're going 1 mile per hour over 65, you could get pulled over. One of the things I got to do with Deputy LB was we had a call about a pit bull mixed puppy that had been just like left on the side of the road and taken to somebody's house. So we went out and we got the puppy and we took her to the vet. And that was again another thing where there was no law to enforce. It's just you're helping these people get this dog to a safe place. So it ends up living a happy life. One of the things that they emphasize at the sheriff's office is that working this job, when somebody calls in to 911 or they need the cops, they need medical, they need any kind of assistance, that point in their life is the most important moment of their life. So your job is to do what you can to help them. And a lot of times it's to make their problem your problem. So you actually assist them in what they need. And that's one of the things I like about the job is it's about helping people, not just telling them what to do. You're actually assisting them in what they do. What this internship has done for me is in the past, growing up, I had a few career options. I wanted to be a veterinarian or a marine biologist. Those are my realistic choices. I actually wanted to be a superhero. Growing up, I learned that's a bit unrealistic. And then first responders are the superheroes. And so I figured, why not try to go for one of those? And law enforcement was my favorite option. And so I've been able to do a lot of the stuff that most kids that want to go into this career haven't been able to do. So I've gotten to learn a lot of the stuff that's going to help me not be behind when I get to college. And I've learned a lot of stuff that you wouldn't learn until you get to the academy. So I had the privilege of learning a lot. So I'm done. Any questions?
Excellent
But-
presentation.
What was the one single standout moment in your internship?
Like what I like from something that I learned from?
Yeah, just an experience. The
Honestly,
different departments that you
Mhm.
were in and whatnot. And
I really liked seeing the patrol side, mainly because I don't like sitting still in an office chair. I like to go out and do stuff. But growing up, you only think that the cops' jobs are to enforce things. They're just to tell you what to do, what not to do. But it's also about helping people. And so I liked doing patrol because we weren't just going out and pulling people. We were actually going out and assisting people with medical stuff or just going out and actually helping people. And I liked that part of the patrol side of things.
thank you.
I would give some kudos to this girl when she was with me. She showed up at noon one day and we had back-to-back detention hearings and I was by myself. Things were a little wild and I thrust her into the phone and she about crapped her britches, but
I didn't want to make sense.
she did a wonderful job. And I think for somebody that got put on the spot like she did to have to talk to some other professionals, she did a great job.
Is this one here?
That's good. And then you can just use your arrows on your.
Just the arrows.
On your keypad.
Oh, okay. I was getting a different view here.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
So the purpose of this position was to get hands-on experience with the job that I wanted to go into, which is the juvenile department. Brooke set this up for me so I could narrow down what I wanted to do because I knew that I kind of wanted to go into the juvenile department, but I wasn't quite sure. So she hooked this up for me so I could see all different kinds of departments, which I got to experience a lot of different departments in the law enforcement branches. For my job functions, I had to maintain active probation lists and I had to provide data entry for courts and help Brooke get documents all set up for courts and departments to send out. I also got to prepare and process mandatory expunctions, which was new this year. So Brooke and I got to learn that together. It was kind of a process for a while. I also got to provide case managements to the teen court. I get to help Laura with that. So I'm super excited to do that because I get to kind of be like the leader with Laura and help all the kids learn how to do that. And I also got to help fill out expunctions and motions and judgments to different courts and departments with Laura and Brooke. So for the juvenile department, I got to administer and observe UAs. I also got to do detailed note entries in JGIS, which is really important because everyone can go into JGIS and see, so you have to be really detailed about it. And so Brooke taught me how to do that, and I got to do a lot of that. I also got to supervise youth on community services. Laura and I had kids that needed community service. Laura and I had to go every week and water the plants down Main Street with them. We had to do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, so it was kind of hard to get kids there, but they showed up. I also got to supervise a youth by myself with guidance from Brooke and Laura. She was started out, she was in trouble for having marijuana on her, so we had to do UAs a lot, and Laura would always have me like administer them and observe them. And one of the days she had to do a UA, when she gave it to me, I noticed it was kind of cold, and normally your pee is not cold, so I came into Laura and I was like, Laura, I don't think this is her pee, and she was like, how do you know? And I said it's cold and it's normally not cold, and so she came in. We had the girl come in, and Laura sat her down, and I was in there, and she asked her, and at first she really didn't want to tell us, and then she kind of said yeah, I've still been on it, so we had to deal with that. So we got that done, and then she's been doing pretty good. And then Laura and I were doing home visits with her every once a week. We'd go and check on her before when she didn't have to come in here and check with us. And she kind of had been acting like something was wrong maybe at home, and so we were kind of starting to do more home visits. And she has 2 little kids, they are 2 little siblings, and the girl was kind of acting funny when she would show up and acting funny when we did home visits. So Laura and I would do a more recent, and we had to call DHS for the little kids. The home life wasn't the greatest, so I got to witness that. That was pretty cool because having DHS come and we have to have not just us tell them what's going on, but have the girl be able to talk to them and say yeah, my home life isn't good, was super hard for her to do. And super it was super cool to see how DHS and Laura especially were super calm with her and didn't force her to do anything. They just wanted to help her, and she it made her feel super safe, and that was cool because I never got to see anything like that. I also got to tackle the explosions that came in this year under Senate Bill 575 with Brooke, and she had never done it either because it was new, and so that was fun because I wasn't just the one learning. Laura or Brooke and I were learning, so that was fun to do that together. And I also got to go with Laura and pick up a kid in the Dalles in a caged vehicle, which I had never ridden in a caged vehicle before, so it was nice being in the front seat, but being able to see how you had to go and pick them up and transfer them and do all that. One of the departments I got to work in was dispatch. They got me LEDs and CGIS certified. I also got to be one to talk on a 911 call because a dispatcher was on another 911 call, and that was actually really nerve-wracking. I didn't think it would be just watching, but it was super nerve-wracking. I did not want to say the wrong thing, but that was pretty cool. I just got to talk and listen to them and then talk back. That was super cool. I also got to go to the adult probation for about 2 weeks. That was super cool because it is a lot different than juvenile. Lottie took me on a couple ride-alongs. I also got to do a house visit with her, and she had me wear the vest and everything. That was super cool. I also got to go to a goal orientation meeting for a female that lives at the Independence Place, and I didn't really know what that was when I got signed up to go and listen, but it was super cool because they had told me before the meeting that she didn't really like instructive criticism from adults. She wanted to do it her way, and that's how it's going to be. But they said that she had come a long ways and that she was a lot better at it, taking in information. And so when she wrote out her goals, how she was going to do it, and there was 4 different adults besides Lottie and myself that were from different departments that were on her case, and they gave her instructive criticism on maybe changing her goals just a little bit that would help her more. and she took it in great. She wrote down notes, and like it was super cool to see like how they had been working with her to change her, like not being so defensive about it. I also did not know what an independence place was before I went there, and that was super cool to learn about like how they have places like that for people that need them. I have been working in Justice Corps for about going on my 4th week here. I kind of had to save Vicky because Riley, her person, went on maternity leave. So I had to step in and help her do that. And it was a lot at first because I had no idea what I was doing. And Vicky helped me a lot. I've had to learn how to process tickets. I've had to assist her like in court, getting all of her judgments and services like all filled out, ready to go for. There's been a lot of evictions lately, so Vicky's kind of told me how to do it, and so I've been having to process and serve them to the sheriff's office and get them sent out to the defendant, and it's been kind of a lot, but I'm getting used to it now that I'm coming on my last stretch, and it's been super awesome getting to help Vicky because she's great and she's helped me every step and not been super like she is very patient with me when I don't know what I'm doing. Another thing, this summer internship, I am going through TVCC, and with this internship, they give me 4 credits to go to school, and that's been super, super helpful getting credits to do this internship because no one gets a lot of internships like this, and this is what I'm going to school for, so it was super helpful to get credits for it as well as get more hands-on experience instead of just them telling me what it's going to be like in the classroom. It's been super great getting hands-on, and I'm super grateful to get this experience.
So I'm gonna ask you kind of along the same lines.
Okay.
Marissa liked the patrol side of things. What did you like?
I liked the juvenile, being in the courtroom was my favorite. Brooke she said that when she first started, she went in the courtroom a lot. So she kind of had me doing that, and I really enjoyed just getting to watch all the court. It was super cool.
And then I'm going to back up a little bit here. Just one more question. Besides the technical stuff that you learned, the criminal justice side stuff of it, where do you put your base skills, things that you learn, like interpersonal communication skills or organizational skills, that kind of stuff? What kind of benefit did you see out of it for that?
Being able to talk in front of people was a big one, and in justice court, I'm at the window, so I always have to come and be professional about how I talk. I just can't talk like I do every day, and so learning to be professional and talk in front of people was a big thing for me. Lifelong skills that you'll take with you no matter what you decide to do. No, I mean those are skills that you will take with you. Yep. And knowing the laws a lot better. Like with Brooke and with Vicky, I did not realize there was so many different specific type of laws until I came here. And Marissa?
One of the things is I'm kind of in the same boat because I've been in the civil deputy spot the last couple, month and a half, 2 months. And so I've had to approach people at the window a lot more. I've had to make a lot of phone calls, which that actually did help, that little instance we had. And then sending out emails, I've never had to do that in a professional setting except at school. So it was kind of nice to actually get to do it in a career setting and not just a classroom setting. And talking to people is definitely, especially on patrol, working the front desk, when I'm in dispatch, you talk to people in a different way than you do in your normal life. So that's also definitely something that I've learned.
Good. Thank you.
Very good. And Taylor is here now.
Okay.
Then Cassie, so.
Okay, Cassie, did you have a presentation too?
No, I came very unprepared.
I want to play your video, so I'm going to play yours last. Okay.
So great. Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you for doing this internship that has money. So I guess this at the beginning was I actually tried to get a job at the library. I didn't get it, and instead Cheryl was like, Cassie, you want this internship? And I was like, yeah, it worked out way better. For me, because I started working at the library and was like, maybe this isn't quite what I was wanting, but it's been a great experience to help me. I have learned a lot, like how to do more stuff on a computer, how to talk to people more. The librarians have been great. I have learned the alphabet way better. Letting me learn very slowly because there was many moments of that. People do that. Let me try.
Thank you. Taylor, do you have anything beforehand? And I mean, if you want to just address the court, whatever, with your experiences and whatnot, and I can play your video last or whatever you want to do.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Baker. I worked in OSU Extension this summer. I worked downstairs and I worked a lot with the 4-H group and just the extension office and did a lot of communications in that. I do not have a presentation that is up and going, but I do have a video that I would like to share for those of you.
See here, I'm gonna. There's a way to do this full screen. There we go. There we go.
I was it also opened up an opportunity to serve my community members and you. My Plymouth friends immediately contacted me to set up an interview, but I politely declined having my heart set on Harney County. Before I knew it, my supervisor reached out and said he could asked me when I could start. The rest is history. I can share with you a little bit of what I did the entire experience. At first in middle school, I loved public speaking, writing, but not until about 2 years ago did I actually seriously think about studying. Through this interest, side of extension, personal space, that I first published in the newspaper. Since then, I have 5 newspaper articles, 6 press releases, 2 OSU pieces, blog posts, and 1 press release published in national information. Went on the local radio station, Harney County Live, to talk all things 4-H. Along with connecting with my community through my various different communication outlets, I was also blessed with connecting with my community through various local events as well. Through the Team Day branch run, I was able to help the project through hosting an aid and promotion station and visiting one student station. I was also able to attend the Learning 4-H Summer Conference, and I had a blast meeting with friends from across the state, connecting with Mountain County, and brushing up my kids' skills here when I've been writing. It was so much fun, and I was praying and thinking the best people from across the state. time. Drafting motion plans, supporting county, educating youth about our students in agriculture in their eyes for how they can change. Also, any key office, judges and sponsors, make flyers and posters, answer questions. Thank you. That's what I would do. Again.
That was a little bit of my internship experience. It was really enjoyable. I had a lot of fun and I'm very grateful for the experience. Is there any questions?
Well, obviously, you're going to major in communications,
Yes.
and you obviously had a whole bunch of communications type experience.
Mhm.
On YouTube.
Yeah. There we go. So obviously you had a lot of communications
Yes.
exposure in
Mhm.
different forms, but also I'll ask, what was your standout moment?
My standout moment, I think one of the standout moments I had is when we were helping an 8th grader with her service project, the Injured in the Animal World. And I saw these kids that I saw throughout the community, but they weren't directly involved in agriculture. And when they showed up, it was like something clicked. And I was like, I loved that moment because I was watching these kids and I remember being a younger kid and having that moment when it just clicked and connecting agriculture and then the youth in our community and just being able to support the youth in our community and showing them that there's opportunities out there for them. That was my standout moment.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And you probably thought I skipped past you, and you probably thought I was gonna not ask you these questions. So Casey? Cassie, I'll get it right. Okay, Cassie. So same questions. What skills other than the library world did you come away with? And did you have a moment where, maybe in helping somebody or whatever, that it all clicked for you?
I guess I've learned to talk to people more. Skills. Computers now. I've learned a lot with computers. I think my thing is I've learned the skills of the library and of seeing that area. And I think I'm more using this internship to help me figure out what I want to do. I feel like the library isn't quite what I'm looking for, but it's an area that has helped me see more what I do want to do, which I am getting closer to. I guess I'm a senior this year, so I haven't graduated, so I have time. And then we answer the question.
Did you have a kind of a standout moment, something, throughout it that you really, a memory that stands out?
I guess a memory was a really growth one. I guess was I was making this poster for this little event, and I'd never done it before, and it was a bit stressful trying to make it because then people would see it, and so that was a big growth for me, making something and trying to make it look nice and your presentation.
All right. Thank you. I had put everybody else on the spot. I had to put you. Obviously, county involved internships, OSU internship, and it sounds like there's a lot more of it going on out there. Thank you to all the Harney County departments, juvenile, district attorneys, everybody, jail, corrections, everybody, for the effort, the work that you guys put into it this year. You guys made this come together, and I'm proud to be a part of that team that you guys saw work you guys did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, High Desert Partnership.
Yes, I was. Thank you, High Desert Partnership, for your partnership in this process, and I look forward to next year. I really do. We'll look at some funding and whatever we need to do to bring it to fruition next year. Anything else? Anybody? Great. We took a little bit longer for that, but you know what? That was a good topic to spend the time on. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys.
All right.
We're gonna clear the room.
Next topic under new business is the Crane Water Sewer Project discussion with Jessie Barnes. There she is. So background, the special session and the last session, we initiated an order, a county ordinance for the creation of the Crane Water and Sanitary District. As part of that, we thought we're doing our due diligence, just in, hearing from all those that might be associated with, or interests that might be associated with, and thought maybe you might be able to bring some perspective on certain issues to us.
Okay. And then just as a little caveat, just for the record, what we were presented with was a Crane Oregon Water and wastewater feasibility study. And so what we're kind of speaking to is just some of the findings of the feasibility study, so that we can help this process as it moves forward. Obviously, where the county court intersects is to allow the formation of the district, and that's the purpose of the county court putting together an ordinance and having the hearing, is so that a district can be formed. We are planning on allowing an appointment of those positions until elections can be held. But this is just the feasibility study at this point that's been presented. It's not down in the weeds with the engineering and other things, but with the, community development department, when we get that one off the tongue, they will be intersecting the project into the future. And so it's really nice to have their background and just early findings at this point.
So I've read through the draft, just a little background with the Crane community. It's an older community. The plat is an old original plat. The original lots are tent size lots. So they're 15 to 25 feet wide. And
all the 25 feet.
Yeah. And so they're very small. You can park your pickup, can't open the doors. So they're very small lots on the original plat, and granted, now the tax lot size, which I guess tax lots are arbitrary. They generally can accommodate a home. They're 50 by 100 or 100 by 100, however that lot's set up. Going along with that, with the age of Crane community itself, every home has its own septic system. Every home has its own well or multiple wells. A lot of the systems out in Crane are older septic systems that have limited to no documentation for their septic system.
And that holds true for a significant number of the domestic wells that are in Crane. There's no drilling record, there's no water resource record on a lot of those domestic wells. As Crane has the possibility to grow with the increase of school and some other activities that are going on out there, or any development that may happen in the future, being able to build a home out in Crane is going to become more problematic as the future comes at us, because there's not a community water system and there is not a community sewer system. So from a longevity standpoint, from a public health standpoint, having or providing the ability for Crane to become or the Crane community to have a community sewer system and a community water system is very significant. From my standpoint with environmental health and the on-site wastewater, please get them a sewer system. It will facilitate things a lot easier, especially when people start, I bought a lot in Crane, my kids go to Crane, I'm working at the Crane store or Anderson Valley or at such and such ranch, we're going to build a house. And I don't want to be the person that says, you can't. You can have a composting toilet and drink water, bottled water. That's it. You can't shower though. Go camp. I mean, that's kind of the direction. I mean, that's a kind of a doomsday perspective, but as time progresses and things get tighter and tighter out there, because again, those tent lots are technically the legal lot, not the tax lot. So someone could actually go in and be like, I'm going to sell you a tent lot. And that's detrimental.
Not advisable.
Not advisable. There you go. I like that. So as far as the draft goes, I've run through it a couple of times. I've got a list of notes in the office for the committee when they're ready to delve into it after you guys get everybody appointed. There are some questions I have with the draft feasibility study. One of my desires or a concern I would have is the district itself, the proposed boundary does not include Anderson Valley or the Crane Tavern. And would it be possible or feasible to have them added onto there because they are on smaller lots? They're not traditional use as far as an agriculture zone. When their septic systems are to be repaired, I don't know what to do.
There's challenges because of the site conditions.
Yes, there are significant challenges because of those site conditions. And would it be possible to include them into the boundary for the sewer system? That's one of it's like, oh yeah, let's do that. So whether it's feasible or not, I don't know. That's one of my big ones.
Is the Anderson Valley and the Crane Tavern properties, obviously in time, their systems are going to need to be upgraded or replaced or whatever, and to be able to connect them to this water and sanitary would be better than, but do they pose in the situation where they're sitting at, do they pose hazards to other lots around them or other currently anyway?
That's kind of a loaded question. Technically, yes. Specifically, the lot that is along Highway 78, that's Crane Tavern. That is, I remember when there used to be a roping arena in the back. There's two very, very small locations in which we can repair a drain field. Or if somebody goes on a crazy driving spree, they can drive over the top of their tanks and collapse everything. So they're very limited on space. There's no possibility for growth if something catastrophic happened and buildings and structures had to be replaced, I don't know if it would pass inspection to this day for what the current use is, or any change in use. Say they want to expand and open the tavern back up on a full-time basis. I don't know what that would do to their system, if it wouldn't affect it at all, or if something would go sideways. And we wouldn't be able to accommodate that.
So incorporation of those locations incorporated into the boundary, the proposed boundary, would be better sooner than later. And it's not, I mean, the county's forming this district and appointing the initial board. That would be, I think, a topic for them to take up.
And I know there's some land use stuff in that as well on whether or not it's a possibility or how challenging it would be to do that. You know, again, that's from the environmental health side of things and DEQ side of things, that's the pipe dream to say, yes, all that's included. So it's, there's no we're limiting the risk for public health issues. On the other side of it, if it is connected to a community sewer system, if those properties become marketable or if they're changing hands, it's easier.
Easy. Something that comes to my mind is just the question of whether, as this progresses, whether either Biz Oregon or Regional Solutions is the kind of entity that provides help in these kind of emerging projects. I know sometimes when I read that Regional
Actually, have an
Solutions.
answer to that. I reached out to Susan Christensen after Matt Holly and I had talked after he handed me the draft, and I just talked to her about, you know, GOCD had received additional funding in the legislature to help rural communities. And so I asked her if this kind of project would be well suited to her expertise and what they could provide to the project. And she said it's actually a really good match for that. And so I discussed it also with Representative Bowens, who helped them achieve some of that extra funding for rural communities. And so she is poised to start helping, and she is already aware of this project. She and Feather Sands had met with the Crane School staff last summer and talked about the project, the funding. And so they're very tied into it. Biz Oregon is one of the grant. Once the district's formed and can receive the funds, she's kind of the conduit for that on Feather's End. And so Susan's been tagging along to get familiar with the project, but she's willing to help the board once it's formed administrate the project from here forward and just do it with an administrative cost that's already written into the grant. So there's some opportunity there to really assist that board in being able to achieve the project without putting a lot of taxing, skills out of their wheelhouse, on those individuals. And so she seemed very favorable. She also understands there could be a potential funding gap. And so she's already kind of trying to research other available funds that could help with these type of projects.
So from I guess my takeaway with the Crane Community Sewer Project and Water Project is I can absolutely stand behind the need for it. From a public health standpoint and environmental health standpoint, it's absolutely something that should be, please do it. I really would appreciate it, especially when we have new housing. There's 3 or 4 new houses in the Crane area. They're brand new septic systems. They got super lucky that the wells that they had to drill to service their homes were at least 100 feet or more away from existing septic systems. So I guess it's virgin ground, as you would, you could term it that way. But again, you're looking at $10,000 to $15,000 for a septic system, which, when a connection comes along from a community sewer system, that should cut your cost significantly. So you have an increase, hopefully, in housing.
So may I touch back on something?
Sure, go ahead.
You mentioned the boundary.
State your name.
Yeah.
I'm Robinson County Clerk. They don't know on the camera. So you had mentioned when we're discussing the boundaries, the boundary needs to be set before you appoint any board members. The boundary is paramount to creating the district, so the map's got to be set. So You can't appoint a board and then let them decide what the boundary is. That's gotta.
They
be done
can't
by-
expand it later on.
Well, they could have, that would be an annexation, and that's a whole nother process.
Okay.
You would be far better off to do this ahead of time and just decide this is what the boundary needs to be. And then you can address that later, especially if you're talking 2 or 3 different parcels. You're better off to include them now than to try to annex those in later. It's just a bigger process. So just for you to know.
There's one other factor, and that is that both of those facilities are for sale, and one of them, I think, is sold. So you'd have. And I'm just curious whether in planning or with Jesse's work, have you had any conversations with those businesses in any way?
Yeah, the boundary map that was given was really an arbitrary map that was the original Crane Town site plat. It just happens to be a platted boundary. It's really insignificant as far as growth and development. I mean, you can do something entirely different from that. It's not like it's incorporated. It's just an arbitrary boundary that we choose. So.
And so in the hearing process, that's why we're having
Yeah,
hearings,
yeah.
is so that we can try to address these kind of
Exactly, yeah.
situations and have those conversations as we, inch closer to the formation.
But I appreciate you telling us that. 'Cause
Yeah,
We were thinking.
Yeah, I
of
just
more
wanted to
of
make sure
that,
that we
right?
get that set in stone and you go forward with an order to form. This is the boundary. So,
Well, and if the desire is to go with the initial formation boundary as presented, understanding what it would entail to actually do the other process down the road would be, helpful. So who would we kind of tap into for that kind of information?
county council, of course, would be helpful in doing annexation. It's just it's a process.
So then we can kind of, in the hearing process, you can present, both sides of that, whether we do it now or whether they desire to do it later.
Both processes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. That's part of the hearings process, and the independent, but do you want to do it now or do you want to do it?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just as a reminder, we have, the public hearing is set for September 27th at 6 p.m. at the Crane Middle School, elementary school.
Elementary multipurpose room.
And then after that, after the initial hearing, the court will evaluate the district's formation by applying land use criteria provided under ORS 199-462. So that will.
That's what Brandon.
Yeah. And that comes out of the statute for this process. It's 199.462 ORS.
This is how we inch forward, right?
If the court determines that the land has been improperly omitted from the proposed boundaries and owners of the land have not appeared, the court must continue the hearing and order notice to be given to non-appearing owners in the manner required under ORS, blah, blah, blah. So, that's after our initial hearing. So we'll have that hearing and have all these same discussions and hear the people's concerns and whatnot. And,
So we're going to be able to send out a mailing as we.
Yep. And actually, having heard from Clerk Robinson on the expansion, it might be good to expand the mailing to maybe some other people around there that it might affect, and make sure that they're present, or at least let them know so that they have the opportunity to be present. Anything else?
No, thank you for coming in and. Appreciate the conversation. Brand, I've been down to their office visiting with them about it as well, just to kind of educate myself on some of the nuances of this.
If Crane got a community sewer system and water system, that would just be fantastic. I know one of the issues with the wastewater permit, this current sewer lagoons that the school has, the lagoons themselves are super old, and there's not enough students at the school anymore to keep it where it needs to be for an evaporated lagoon. And so adding this, they'll have to do some expansion on the lagoons and some other things, but it's not gonna hurt what they currently have out there. They'll have to do some expansion, but
But they do currently have a full-blown lagoon
Yep.
system.
Right.
and there'll be some
It'll,
permitting
you know,
changes and
and
stuff.
then some funding, you know, that can assist with all that, so it's a, you know, a shared opportunity for the school as well as the community to benefit from the initial funding that was allowed for this.
So it'll be a huge benefit to Crane.
Any further discussion? Next topic on the agenda is the FEMA update. Thank you, Jesse. Brandon McMullen, Planning Director.
So, it is an understatement to say that we are at the very tail end or the home stretch of what has been a heavy lift for this community as it relates to our floodplain mapping and our flood insurance studies. And we're there. So what this means for us, Harney County and the community, is an adoption of the final maps for what we've been calling phase 2 of the remapping effort that has lasted since 2010, 2009. So first phase is complete, of course, and those maps are effective now. They have been since 2022. The new maps will become effective on February 8th of 2024. Before that can take place, as far as us implementing them for floodplain development purposes, we being the county, will need to employ an adoption process for amendment of our comprehensive plan maps and some small textual references for our comprehensive plan as well, which reflect the various mapping panels that are within our jurisdiction. Phase 2 is interesting in the sense that we're not the only jurisdiction that has to adopt maps this time as we were in the first phase, because we also intersect with 2 other communities in Burns and Hines. The tribe has their own process for what they do, but both Burns and Hines will also have to go through a similar process. So you'll see some parallels there as far as what is going to have to happen down the stretch. But that's where we're at. We're real close.
What was the major, if you had to just oversimplify and summarize, what were the major changes in floodplain from phase 2? Are there certain areas that came out?
There are significant changes in the floodplain. This is very positive in many elements. The city of Hines is not completely removed from the regulated floodplain, but it's nearly close. It's in a much better spot, much more accurate, based on the types of drainages that happen off of the hills above town and how that was overstated in a significant way years and years ago. The city of Burns, in another positive area, has a significant reduction in the A flood zone, if you will. And I won't get super technical here, but it's the important one to know when we're talking about flood insurance rates and development requirements. Much of the area that has been mapped for flooding in that A zone, that 100-year, 1% chance, it still remains in a flood zone. But FEMA has put a different type of designation on large portions of that area. Think downtown Burns, for instance, along Broadway, where again it's still mapped for floodplain, but they have two different regulated areas. One that is going to be how it has been in the past. You'll need to, if you're getting federal financed backing loans and stuff like that, you're going to need flood insurance to couple with that. And then you'll need to move through floodplain development standards, which can be costly, but are needed in some circumstances. The other one is also a floodplain. It's going to be a flood zone X, if you will, but it is designated as a floodplain that under those same circumstances as the other one, we'll have projected flood depths of 1 foot or less. And so will not incur those requirements, which is significant. So it's a big deal. Absolutely. A floodway is a regulatory piece of this. It has been made larger by this, but in areas that make much more sense than originally proposed. So, which were originally was going through parts of Burns, which was ridiculous. And so that's not the case. It's going to be on the other side of the river where it makes the most sense to protect those actual floodway designations. So yeah, oversimplification of what's been a career-long project, but nothing is perfect. If we could have it all removed, I would love to be a part of that. But what we do have is significant, especially since we haven't had anything majorly changed since 1984 in this regard. So this is going to save our community a lot of money.
Was there a pretty good participation of those communities in this process?
Throughout it, yes. You see peaks and valleys and how this goes because you see staff changes throughout time. But I seem to be the only one holding the flag through the majority of them. But they've been engaged throughout though. They know how, they have a clear understanding of how much of a constraint the floodplain can be for them. And it's been a big deal. I've been at the heart of it because a lot of the funding and those efforts that go along with that, working with engineers and through the politics of it all, you need some consistency there. So I felt that my presence was, as on behalf of the county, was really important to keep the project moving in a positive sense. And so I'll pat my back on that one, I guess. But it's been important for all of us. So
this is outstanding. It's made a huge difference, and I know it has been a major effort to stay involved and to keep up with FEMA and your changes as well. And what goes on with that.
Outreach will be important. Folks needing to know this is coming is going to be a really high element of high importance. And so I would like to have a radio spot as we get closer towards February. Work on that. Maybe even put something out there for the newspaper if it makes sense. Communicating with the cities as this hits their desk sometime soon is also important. I don't work for them, but collaboratively with them, of course. We're all partners in this, and so it makes sense to share resources and knowledge and how that kind of unfolds. As far as the county court is involved, this will we'll probably start this adoption process. It is a land use process. It'll go before the planning commission sometime in November, and then probably get to you in December, late December, early January, and that'll give us a lot of time prior to February.
I remember FEMA and how they interacted with us when they presented and for phase one. Will they be doing something like that here or here in the cities or the cities or?
I'm not sure you'll see much of a presence from FEMA from here on out. Okay. This will be mostly local. And so you may have participation to some degree from DLCD staff, as they have they're a partner in all this. They have a new person who this is their entire job, is to make sure this kind of stuff unfolds. So I'll be working with DLCD staff to make sure that I'm not.
Do you envision, like for instance, a Burn City Council meeting? They'll probably have something on the agenda at some point that they'll have, of course, their planning people. But would you be someone that addresses them or not?
Has that already occurred?
Yeah. So your public participation piece, as far as the nuts and bolts of the mapping and how insurance intersects with all that, that's already taken place for the most part. So I wouldn't say this is a mere formality, but in a sense, this is us acknowledging the final product and all the work that we've done on it and saying, okay, this needs to be, as per state statute, state law, this needs to be folded into our map, our comprehensive plan for future land use decisions and implementation. The cities will move through a very similar process. If they ask for any of assistance from the county as far as how this process has been, I'll be more than happy to help out.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Yeah, and we need to get you on the court schedule, maybe in the next month or two, to come in and update on some of the other topics that we've been talking about lately. I'm gonna put a teaser out there a little bit.
You bet. Absolutely.
Some exciting,
Growth be happening in the community development.
yes, some exciting stuff happening.
Stay
Planning.
tuned.
So,
I'd have to look, but I think they're gonna see a significant.
any further discussion on FEMA update?
No, I think, the only thing I would note, and maybe Brandon could speak to this just for a minute, is as we look at trying to make sure that we still maintain, avenues for water to move, obviously the city will have their own process, but is there anywhere within the county that we need to be aware of through this process of, maintaining any specific waterways or anything of that nature? Is that something in the comprehensive plan where we acknowledge places in the county that we need to keep an eye on for, allowing water to flow and do its thing?
I don't have anything off the top of my head to point at specifically. We do have a list of water policies in our comprehensive plan that aren't necessarily naturally intersecting with our floodplain acknowledgements, but they do kind of live in the same plan. I don't know if you're going to see anything that beyond a one-liner that talks about the connection between our natural floodplain, our watershed, and our other water bodies, or water conveyance. So it may be something that if it makes sense, we can touch on in any adoption. This type of adoption is typically going to be very simple as far as textual updates, make reference to the mapping panels, making sure that everyone knows this is the exact map and flood insurance study that we're doing. So the scope, in other words, isn't necessarily built for including more policy statements, but it's certainly something that can be acknowledged throughout the process.
And how would that typically go? I mean, obviously the road master intersects with certain things, but emergency management's also intersected during flooding events. And so I think maybe we could have a little side conversation at some point and try to just make sure that we're designating in areas we need to watch or maintain, keep an eye on, just so that when we do have flooding events, so there's no restriction.
Absolutely. When the flooding that happened in 2011 or 2014, one of those two, the one that we reached the highway. I remember the emergency meeting that happened in the downstairs meeting room where you had all the folks trying to figure out in the room, what do we do to alleviate this pressure? And that's the meeting where it was decided we're going to breach the thing. Before we moved anywhere, I was asked to go grab as many copies of flood maps as possible to make sure we were considering where this water is going to go and where the engineered studies had it. I wouldn't say it was the key to making it all happen, but it was part of the conversation and it helps provide some information on that.
Yeah, I'll think about that one line.
Yeah,
Figure out,
the mitigation is also a part of this too.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
and then, some of the legislative acts that we put in, ties back to pinch points that we, acknowledged that we plan on with some continuing to work on potentially getting some funding to go towards that mitigation.
It's critical. This is what we're looking at here is a significant step based on what we've had, but we have the knowledge based on the information we've obtained from this project and the engineers out of Seattle that worked on this project and the folks we hired out of Portland to help work on this project, that There's a significant amount of water that could go into the city of Burns based on choke points, if you will, from natural flooding events, cumulative events. Mitigation efforts, properly funded and implemented, of course, can help alleviate that. And we can make this map even better in the future. So this isn't the finish line necessarily, but if there's positive momentum, certain projects could make this even better. We were hoping to get some funding in the latest legislature
Yeah,
to make
just
that
to
work.
come
But we didn't quite get that one across the finish line. But there's hope that we're not done yet. We have investment in this in a few ways, and it's certainly important to the community.
to keep the eye on our. Yeah. Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right. So then, moving on, next topic is land sale deed approval for signature. This is the parcel that went up for sheriff's office here 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Not on Ryegrass Lane.
Yeah. I would.
I'm going to abstain from
I was
voting
gonna
on
ask
this
that.
just because my husband was the one purchasing it for the co-op store. So. And
I think so. You both may know. I'm probably not going to say it too well, but there's quite a bit going on now in the courts, and that will affect Oregon is one of 14 states that a U.S. Supreme Court finding will make them need to do different things when I'll put it foreclosures and sales. Now, is it just foreclosures?
I believe so.
All right, and this is not
you're talking about the additional value that's achieved through the sale of the property that then has to go back to the original owner that was anything over the amount that is owed on the property. Is that what you're referencing?
That's the topic. That's one of the main takeaways of it at the moment. And yeah, for some of the topics yet to be worked out, but whether the state of Oregon proceeds forward to try to legislatively do some things that will make it easier, because counties do things different ways even now. If this were immediately without any state coordination on this, it's gonna be a hot topic. Oregon does not have a legislative fix for this, and we hope that they will look to do one. Valuation work of all our offices will be of utmost importance to ensure that the amounts are up to date and correct, even more than in the past. How notifications will have to roll out and be, what is considered adequate legally. For all 36 counties, there's a lot of different aspects. Need to get a law passed for some sense of uniformity and harmony, or some of the comments that I heard on the AOC discussions this and last week. And protection against predatory LLCs and attorneys that may be involved in this stuff, that is already getting involved in some of this stuff. And stopgap. I mean, how far back,
that's
all
the
these issues are things that are out there, and that's more to come on that.
Proposed legislation.
We could agendize that topic and discuss further as far as plans for moving forward.
And potential legislative conference.
Yeah. This sale came up about the same time this issue was starting to get visibility on it. So, this has been done. We'll move through with this.
And since it's not a foreclosure, it may be that there's
I don't know what the background of the
aspect at
property
all.
is.
Yeah. Well, and it could be, and that'll depend. It depends. It could be a piece that was foreclosed upon. I don't know what the history of this property is, but it could be a piece of property that was foreclosed upon some years back, whatever. And then was, through the appropriate process was requested to be put up for sale and was sold. So this property could very well end up being subject to this. But I've been talking with the treasurer a little bit and the clerk. And I think in order to keep us from being caught behind the ball without funds to potentially have to give to a claimant, we may need to take some steps to save these funds until there's guidance.
Well, and that's kind of what I assumed that we would need to take action on now that we're aware of this situation, is that these funds be held in a separate account, kind of like some of the other things Bobby Joe's had to hold until it was settled out. And so, moving forward, we can do that. Obviously, there's been past land sales and those funds have been utilized elsewhere. And so that's a different situation.
Yeah, we're going to have to look at statutes to find out about holding these funds, because normally in June they're dispersed. The proceeds are dispersed to the other taxing districts, and we would have to find out what the mandatory requirement is for dispersal, if we can hold on to it. But then again, if it's dispersed, there's all kinds of questions here. If it's dispersed and there's a claim made, does the claimant
go back to all the districts?
All the districts, and the districts have to pay it back, or what?
The assessors and tax, in some counties they're separate, in some counties they're, but definitely it's going to be a huge dialogue with them and their involvement.
So on this one here, on this piece anyway, it's been done. It's been sold. I move that we go ahead and approve the land sale deed. Commissioner Shellman has recused herself, so I would motion that we approve the bargain and sale deed for tax account number 5480, land in Harney County, Oregon, Township 23 South, Range 32 East, West Meridian, Section 26, tax lot 400. In Township 23 South, Range 32 East, West Meridian, Section 26, West half, Northeast quarter, Northwest quarter, save and accept county road right of way.
I second.
Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And I'll double check, but I think under your signature, we'll put recused.
Yeah, I was wanting to
Yeah.
why it wasn't voted. And my assumption that it was a foreclosed property, because there is some dilapidated fence around the 20 acres. And so I would assume that's how the county acquired the property at some point.
Double check with Dag, make sure that's the right language to put on there.
Directly related to work we do.
All right, next topic is Measure 110 discussion for possible action. Like other counties and other organizations, there's a lot of movement on Measure 110, and for ballot Measure 110 is the decriminalization of personal amounts of controlled substances, methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, etc. So other counties, I believe Jackson County was one that recently initiated an order, a county order, challenging and looking for relief from Measure 110. So we drew up an order we can, for discussion, if we want to
So
take
was,
action on it
was
or
legal counsel involved with the drawing up of this at this point?
not on this one, no. We hadn't had time to get it to him yet, but
Yeah, and so, obviously, I think, that would be my question is order versus resolution. Because an order
Was this the same as the Jackson County one, or was there's a resolution or proclamation, or what was it?
It's exactly what
Same thing.
Yeah, and sometimes that's not always done correctly, like county level. So that's where I would want Dominic.
Well, I mean, so then-
on-
so then
on-
for now, discussion as to
Yeah,
whether or not
like
we
have
want
some-
to.
I'm totally in support of, putting something out there, and I do believe what Jackson County did is a good step forward for other counties
Absolutely.
to be aware of.
It's more and more,
communication
I'm seeing
sometimes-
more and more news articles
There-
on this
Uh,
topic.
Some other counties are already doing it beyond Jackson County. I really liked theirs. I totally support it. This wasn't something I interjected in the AOC discussion on just the fact that, by the way, some counties are starting to do this on Measure 110 when we were talking about Measure 110.
Is Jackson part of it?
No,
Okay,
not
I
right
thought that
now,
they were
but
one
they're
that was-
always been a leader on some of these things. I really appreciate the way they share it out sometimes in case people also want to do it. I think whether it has any, real impact or at least just conversational impact with our legislators note, this many counties have already at your local level, at your local governance level, have at least on the record, put out an order, and so definitely, Measure 110. Let's see, I can't, I scribbled all over. We had so many meetings. Measure 110 is not, nobody thinks it's okay. Some entities think we just need to tweak. Some say we want to repeal, et cetera, but it is going to be a topic for some discussion at the AOC retreat. On how to move forward. They don't want to wait till the next full session of the legislature. They want to see what we can try to do now. There was also talk in that, and I saw this on one of those emails you can get on Oregon Catalyst or whatever on the Portland area, but there's a move to have some laws to have the ability to prohibit public use of drug use, i.e. when you see these urban metro areas where all these people are just totally messed up on drugs all over the place, flopped over, there's already alcohol use in public. There's already prohibitions on this. Why can't we do it for this? And then this relates to Measure 110 and all the things. But there is a desire to work on changing Measure 110, this short session by the counties and AOC. And how they move forward on that, I'm not sure, but they don't want to just wait, to the next full session. So we'll see how that progresses. But I would love to have that order run by Dominic, our county council, and see any recommendations he has.
The AOC retreat is next week, right?
Yes.
So that might be good also just to see what comes out of that discussion or from that venue. At the same time, having county council review this and then come back after that and discuss more as the path we want to go forward with.
Well, would you be willing to kind of take the lead on that? So that Dominic, yes, that where you'll be attending the retreat as well. Can you send me a clean one of those, that draft?
Sure.
This is historically it's happened the same way, I guess word I'm looking for, what in past marijuana in Oregon at one time was a criminal, was a crime, was a felony. And then it was decriminalized to a violation. And then it was recriminalized back to a misdemeanor. And then now has no status at all. So
you just have to be 21.
Yeah.
Right?
It
Now
is.
you can, I don't know what it is.
So I hope most definitely that we don't see that same trend going with more serious drugs, heroin, methamphetamine, etc. But we've seen it before.
But now where they can be in possession of a lower amount and still be okay because we just have to make that phone call is a very scary situation because it still means that you were in possession of.
But
That
it's,
is just a strange place for this.
but it's
state.
only a violation to be in possession of
Right,
with
to
very
just have-
little.
No backbone. to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You know, I'm not even sure what
a
my,
very poor ballot measure.
as I try to read my notes from some of these meetings. At the national level, the National Association of Counties, the NACO Justice and Public Safety meeting, one of the things that one of the guest speakers was putting forward was that they're not trying to decriminalize fentanyl in general, but they want to decriminalize the fentanyl test strips because right now the test strips, if they have a positive, I don't know, it has something to do with the criminal laws. And so I just scribbled that down as to, I'm not sure what they're talking about, but I'll just tell you so you've at least heard the phrase fentanyl test strips and their use and how they're considered. There's a movement for some folks at the national level who want to get federal laws to decriminalize fentanyl test strips, not the drug, but the test strips. It's a targeted effort, and I don't understand it yet because they didn't go into great detail. If you know anything about it, let me know.
I haven't heard anything.
I like to just share the little sound bites occasionally.
I wonder why the test strips are criminal or.
Does it mean if you have them, it means you're a user of fentanyl and they can use that in, if you're in possession of those, or does it relate to the health and the level of medically, or I don't know what it means, but throwing that out for further.
Well, federally, the possession of methamphetamine of any amount, methamphetamine or heroin or anything else is still a crime. It's
Right.
just Oregon's 110 decriminalization of
I'm not sure what,
personal use amount, I think is the.
not clear on what the fentanyl test strips, who they test and what they're testing for and how they use that information. But for some reason, I don't like the word decriminalize much right now as in general, but I might not understand what you're talking about.
Eric Jenkins was talking about that on the radio this morning, so we get with me. Because I was some of that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that this morning. I was busy.
Good to know.
Next topic, or any more discussion on that?
No, if we can just table it
Yeah.
and have it come back.
I
on
just
the
thought I'd just
agenda.
throw out my last little druggy notes is that cannabis, home delivery of cannabis. There are already processes for alcohol home delivery, but they haven't figured out it for cannabis yet.
I can't figure out safe ways.
Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out as that's on somebody's to-do list.
Job security.
Right. Next topic, an HR update on a former settlement from a former employee. I bring this out because it's public funds. It's expenditure of public funds, and it warrants transparency. Recently, the county settled or made a settlement via our insurer, county insurance, CIS, and as a settlement, a grievance from a former employee. And the county ended up paying out approximately $29,000. And CIS will pay out approximately 86. Those are rounded numbers, but approximately $86,000, a total of about $115,000 in the settlement. One reason, and I guess I just want to stress that on this incident, the criticalness of following guidance from CIS on employee relations issues. One of the reasons on this issue that we paid out more than about $14,000 more is because the county didn't follow the guidance of CIS, and therefore we had additional liabilities that we had to pay. There is a deductible on claims that we would pay regardless, but above the deductible, if the processes and guidance from CIS is not followed, then it opens us up to further liability.
I
So
totally agree that we should follow the recommendations, and I hope that, I presume we will be.
So, again, it's accountability for the funds that we expend. So that's why I bring it out, and the importance of following guidance from the entities that we pay, insurers or other entities that we are paying for a consult, whether it be our counsel or insurance or whatever.
I guess my only caveat to this is I don't feel that all the information was given to CIS. It was necessary to keep the county from paying this amount of settlement. And I do believe HR could have provided more information to CIS than was provided in this situation.
I would disagree. The information that CIS had to work with, I mean, they had the full picture. I believe they had the full picture.
I don't, because I know I talked to the department that was involved in this, and they were not reached out for information that they had and had asked to have submitted as part of this, and that was not included. So, but I do believe we could do better in making sure that departments that are involved in this really did have a full opportunity to participate in explaining why things occurred, and I do believe that was not done well.
And I do believe that the recommendation by CIS to the administrator at that time was not followed by that individual's decision, unbeknownst to the other members of the county court.
I agree, and I agree. But moving forward, full disclosure, full investigation, due diligence in all, full due diligence in research and finding any and all applicable information. I agree.
For instance, the things that are being worked on now, I think are being done much more thoroughly, and I support moving that way.
So, that's it. I don't want to dwell on it or whatever. I just want to, like I said, it's funds we had to pay out, and I wanted to, transparency wise, to make sure that it's noted. Next topic then, resolution 2023-21 in the matter of interfund transfer of appropriations within categories for General Fund 101 Library Department 036. Basically what we're doing here is the Library Foundation awarded the library this year $15,000 for grant from the foundation. That funds were put into materials and supplies, and the funds are needed in personal services for labor. So therefore, we're moving them from personal services. So personal services, I have a decrease of $10,000. Materials and supplies, I have an increase of $10,000. And because it's part of general fund, it affects the entire fund. So the amounts on here, materials and supplies will decrease by, total expenses will decrease to $4,488,445. And total personal services for general funds will increase by $10,000 to $7,516,624.
So you said 15,000, and this
we're only moving 10.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're only moving 10. The other 5,000 will stay in materials and supplies for whatever needs they might have there.
And so within the grant, they're allowed to use it for either purpose. Is that correct?
Well, again, at budget time, we put it all in materials and supplies, not, I guess, looking forward to what the purpose or uses might be needed for it. And the library has embarked on a project of, has identified a need for additional funds for the indexing of oral histories in the historical digital archives. So that's labor. It's a labor need. So we're moving it from materials and supplies to the personal
This
services.
is good. This is helping be accurate, and it's helping, I think, have the library have a real appreciation for, how to pay for the labor.
So unless there's any further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2023-21 in the matter of intra-fund transfer of appropriations within categories for General Fund 101 Library 036. Having a decrease in material and supplies of $10,000 and a corresponding increase of $10,000 in the personnel services line as described earlier.
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2023-21 in the matter of intra-fund transfer of appropriations within categories for General Fund 101 Library 036. As read and as stated. Any further discussion?
No, I think just to go back to note that these fund balances that we see are the general fund balance.
Yes, because the library is a department within the general fund. So when increases or decreases, changes are reflected. It's the overall end balance of all the departments put together.
They think that was
For the library, yeah. Yeah. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And moving on, while you're just finishing signing that, do we have some service recognition awards? Travis Hodnett, Road Department, 15 years of service. And Beth Brooks from Home Health and Hospice, 10 years of service. We thank these Harney County employees for their service to Harney County, recognize their service in these awards, and express our gratitude.
Appreciate that.
Next item then being EOCA membership invoice approval. I just wanted to bring this, make sure that before I just sign off and send it off, that everybody was okay with renewal on membership. Last year's membership included, I believe, from looking at the amount, the Blue Mountain Intergovernmental Committee option of $5,000. So our total amount last year was $15,000. And again, I wanted to make sure, see where we stood on that for this year.
Commissioner Shellman, do you know how long the BIC is? Is it going to be existing in perpetuity, or is it got a kind of an end date?
Well, as you know, the forest plan revision was just opened. And so until that process is complete, I do see it still being an active group as they come back with. So we presented the desired conditions for the plan that had been most protested. And so as the standards and guides are developed under that, that's where the BIC will continue to lean on to make sure the intent of the desired conditions that came from the BIC are included as the plans developed and those standards and guides are developed. And so
Any idea if that's going to be like, because I don't know the tempo of plan development, whether it's they do a check-in every 6 months or at certain junctures or
the plan.
yeah, when would be?
Oh, I don't know if they have exact set ones. They do have a timeline on their website. The Forest Service does that rolls out the process. But as far as
How many years is it? on their website.
I don't know what it actually says. They presented in the meeting, but,
The last one took 14 years.
But
I'm just curious.
this is, the goal is to have it done sooner than later. Whenever you deal with the federal timeline, it's a proposed, and so obviously with the fixed work that's occurred, it will help that timeline to be as lengthy, because there has been intergovernmental relations prior to the plan going out, unlike the previous plan.
Is the BIC without our optional funding, can it still function? I guess is my question.
Well, what it helps pay for is the coordinator that runs the meetings and helps intersect all the governmental agencies. And it's a housing of the material from those meetings. And so I do believe it's a good thing for us to stay engaged in. Obviously, it will not continue forever. Hopefully once standard guides come out and the BIC says, yes, the intent was achieved, I really don't know how much more the BIC will be needed in that process as it proceeds. And one day the plan will be adopted. It shouldn't be protested as heavily as the last one if things go well.
I wonder if 5,000, if we opt to pay any of that, if that's the amount we want to pay, or maybe less.
I mean, do you
It's a
wanna
pretty
have
mature,
conversation?
it's a pretty mature process by now, but again, whether it's going to have a life for a long time, whether it's going to be more economical in the future to facilitate it, I don't know, because I zoom in most of the time. I don't usually go to the meetings, and I don't know.
But your socioeconomic piece is still continuing in the background, and that's something that we've even used now in our fire plan, and so some of these funds continue to allow that work to.
I'd almost be interested to see a budget on the BIC, where the funds have gone, if there's a balance.
Yeah, they have a budget for it, so if that's a request you'd like to make, that would be available through Margaret.
Okay.
The BIC itself's budget.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Okay. So do we want to table this then for the time being?
We could table that, and I don't know. Do you want to reach out to Margaret or?
I can. This is fine. I can reach out to her. I just
Where you have.
I didn't think about it until just.
I'm not saying no, but I'd like to hear a little more.
Yeah.
Because this thing's been going on quite a while, and if it's gonna be a thing that will always go on.
Slow the
Does the
process
government,
a lot.
can the government afford it, meaning the federal government, or is it always gonna have to be people pitching in to make this happen?
No,
And do all
the
counties do
feds
it?
are
or-
also contributing. We're not solely, the EOCA is not solely contributing to this. The feds are also matching some funds.
Do you know how many of the counties or EOCA counties tend to opt to pay?
I don't have a direct list. I think any county that is in the Blues plan are contributing at this point, as far as I know. But that would be
Maybe Margaret can provide
something Margaret could show you if you want to see that. Sure.
I'll reach out and get some background on it, just to where the funds have gone, if they've got a balance. I mean, are they paying for? Is a part of this funds going for attorney? For legal fees?
It is going for legal fees. So Dr. Daniel Costa had previously been Laurel Singer, was the coordinator for it, and so they get paid.
Is that a paid position?
It's a paid position, and like I say, there's a federal contribution, and then you have your meeting locations and everything that goes on with that, and printing material, the website. It all costs something to maintain and do.
I'll have it before our next county court meeting, and we can we'll make a decision as to which elements of this. The third element on this is Eastern Oregon Economic Summit, optional, $1,000 to $5,000. I think they just had that, didn't they?
I went last year. It was the first time. Wait, is this? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the wrong thing. I've gone a couple times over the years. That's that thing that the Women's Coalition Economic Summit for Eastern Oregon that sometimes was in Umatilla County. This year I think it was in Midland County. It costs money to put on. They always solicit contributions. I don't remember what our record is of contributing, but
Well,
it's a good forum.
I'm gonna say from the lookup, well, this is last year's receipt right here.
Yeah, we did not.
And did not contribute to it last year.
They have sponsors that whose logos go on their stuff, often they're private sector sponsors as well. And
Yeah, unlike the BIC, it can go and solicit sponsors for that.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a decent forum for sure. I
Okay.
just
Well,
don't know.
We'll think about that next county court meeting and decide, if we want to participate in that or not. And then I'll get some budget information from Vic. And we'll decide how much we want to write the check for. All right. Last item I threw on the high desert biomass board assignments. From the workshop meeting yesterday. And before we committed to anything, to bring it to this forum, this body, and decide what we wanted to do, who we wanted to have represent the county on that board. And I'm tentatively, I volunteered that I would be from this body, which I think we need somebody from this body to be on that board. And then a second member from the county was discussed potentially because of the technical knowledge base that Chad Angel be the second. So that's what we need to discuss and who we want to put forward for that board representation.
At one point, you thought perhaps maybe the treasurer?
Oh
no.
So here's my thing that's been playing in my head with this is, can you really can you assign employees to sit on this board? Like,
well, I asked.
Where's our latitude?
I spoke to Mr. Angel and asked him if he would be interested or willing, and he said he would be.
And did he know that would be in a voting capacity versus an advisory capacity?
Yeah.
Do you feel that his perspective is what you're looking for to join your role on that board?
Well, and this is exactly why I wanted to discuss this though too. I definitely think that the technical aspect of it could be as previously potentially discussed in an advisory role.
Definitely for sure.
But as far as the entering decision making on entering into contracts and policy and oversight over the operation in and of itself, that's where I'm left open. It can almost be anybody. I mean, the treasurer.
I feel like I really want Chad to engage in that piece, but I don't necessarily feel like in the board capacity that it's maybe the proper fit. Because he will be doing the day-to-day, and a lot of times if you're doing the day-to-day, you're not into the policy and the other side of it, like we need someone to be, because he'll be so busy with the other duties that are just generally associated with the biomass, and working on things as, problems come up. And so I didn't know if this is, as we look at different boards, just like the budget board or NRAC or anything, if this would be something we'd want to put out in the public at large, or if we really want it to be a county employee or elected official. I'm just kind of throwing this out here for discussion, but.
Well, if we have 2 seats on it, if the county has 2 seats on the board, I guess we could fill them however we wanted to fill them.
Mm-hmm.
Not having seen the bylaws yet.
And that's kind of like, until I read the bylaws, I'm like, what changes would we want to make to the bylaws as we have these kind of conversations? Because obviously the bylaws were in place, but it's gone by the wayside. And so the new board will be tasked with revision of bylaws.
I can't think of who. I'm sure there are people in our community that like someone with a good business experience, who knows how entities can develop and adjust and become stable and sustainable, profitable, or what, just that type of a mind.
Yeah. So here's an option maybe. If I and take up one seat and the school board, whatever they decide to come up with, whether they decide to fill one or both of their seats right now, but even if they just fill one seat, and then there has been a proposal for a member of the public at large, if that seat is filled, that gives us a quorum.
Right.
So we potentially have 3 to 4 people that would form a quorum, and we could then appoint our other vacancy later on when we decide the exact route that we want to go with that position.
Well, and that's where I think it'll be imperative that the language of the bylaws reflect that that's an appointment of the county. And so that gives us the latitude to figure out what process that looks like. Does it have a term? Is it open-ended? How do you enter and exit those kind of board appointments? I just think that as we've gone to some of these work sessions, a lot of things have came to our preview that wasn't available to us before. And so even this board assignment piece, I feel like it just needs a little more massaging before we're ready to really act on it. Just because, we know how we interact with our other boards and committees and appointments from the county court level. And I do believe that it's important for the county court to have a seat on it. And I'm, glad that you're willing to serve in that capacity. But in order, for us to not have a quorum issue, we do need another individual. But I do think that Patty's correct in saying, biomass does intersect with community development and all sorts of things.
I immediately was thinking of that. And I thought, well, I don't know,
So then does that sound like a plan forward then? Is that I will assume we'll accept that nomination or whatever.
Well, and I think we maybe need to make it a form of motion that the county court, appoint you to this. And so I do think that even in our records that we need to make it a formality that we've appointed a member of this governing body to that. And then figure out that other piece. Sooner than later.
But by doing that, like again, it doesn't strangle that board.
No, it still allows quorum to be established and the things that do need immediate attention to be dealt with. The contacts that you're proposing to make be able to happen. But then it gives us just a little bit of time to figure out how to address the other county appointment to the board. And then the bylaws to reflect.
Sounds good to me.
So I move to appoint Judge Hart to serve on the High Desert Biomass Board. In one of the 2 positions the county will provide for that board. I second.
Do I have a role?
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Judge Hart to the county biomass board for the 2 county positions. All in favor? Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And I think thinking back to the annual appointments of budget officer or whatever and all that, I think I voted then, so I would say aye as well.
It's not a
kind of a weird
interest, it's an acknowledgement of the volunteers.
Okay, and then that takes us to water notices.
I hope we got that everything.
Memory full. Yeah, we're about done, I think.
We still have this recording.
Yeah, we still have that.
Is it recorded?
Yeah. Quite a few water notices this week.
Well, as we, look over water notices, I do want to just acknowledge that the Division 512 rulemaking, meeting occurred and that there is a recording of it for many of the parties, and I'll go back and do that, so.
Is it on the state website or?
I get it in an email, but I believe it is on, there is a Division 512 website.
Oh.
And so it would be housed somewhere within there.
I don't think I punished myself since I was there. That one.
Yeah, if anybody else wants it.
So there's 2, 3, 4, 5.
And some of these are transfers, so it's, yeah. Interesting. Move on. Yeah.
Right, correspondence. Some letters from the Bureau of Land Management. NEPA adequacy, and just a NEPA notification from the BLM on restoration work at Mud Creek. A DNA is determined that an action is adequately analyzed. So they issued a DNA on that. Another notification from out here, field office of the Vale District Bureau of Land Management has completed the Mahogany Ridge Key Research Natural Area Exclusion. The CX can be found. So they did a categorical exclusion. The effect of fence construction to restrict access by livestock. The project is for fence. And another one, out here, field office of Vale District Bureau of Land Management has completed the analysis of actions to implement areas unavailable to livestock grazing under the 2015 Oregon Greater Sage Grouse Approved Resource Management Plan. EA environmental assessment for public review. The EA can be found at the following location. So notifications of decisions and pending decisions for proposed actions on public lands by the BLM. For public notice, I'd like to include those so everybody knows what's going on. Scheduling, again, just to reiterate that our next county court meeting will be on September 27th. And they were changed this month from the from the 1st and 3rd to the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month because of conflicts with other events. And on the evening, September 27th, 6 p.m., the Crane Elementary School multipurpose room for the Crane Water and Sanitary District.
And I know it's not on this scheduling, but on the 18th, I am obligated to be at the Southeast Oregon RAC meetings in Lakeview on our regular county court date. Since I don't know. Wait, from October? Yes, in October. Just looking at a little further.
Okay. And do you know what time?
Those meetings are the 17th and 18th, so that will be on those 2 days.
Get to that.
Mhm.
Upcoming events, I'll be going to the OTEC Economic Development Summit on the 20th at Lake Anthony. And then our AOC annual conference next month.
Is that the one that's scheduled during the court, county court day? I was gonna mention it, maybe. The November ones?
yeah.
They usually get bumped around. Oh.
Yeah, so AOC annual conference the week of November 13th.
Yeah.
So we'll need to reschedule the November 15th county court.
Yeah.
Do usually push it forward or bring it or backwards?
It just depends.
And I will throw in there, I think the following Wednesday is the Oregon border. So.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right before Thanksgiving.
So you can't put-
Well, we could. We gotta meet that day anyway for the move the Oregon
Yeah,
border. So do we
That's
just,
usually what is occurred since the border meetings.
yeah, we gotta come together for that day anyway. So,
The agenda
Keep
right.
the right.
yeah. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll
Okay.
have move the November 15th county court date to November 22nd.
Okay.
It's on.
We can convene in county court, recess, go into the move the border, adjourn that and re-adjourn back into county court and take care of both of them at the same time.
I've got busy. September's crazy. busy.
Yeah.
It's been a blur since
It's
last.
like, what? Uh,
There, it's moved. Oh, for general deliberation, I don't know if you've seen the email from
Yeah,
Clerk Robinson.
Waiting to see additional response from county council.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty well covered myself. We'll wait and see what county council says on it. But I think just the deliberation part of it, it's not for.
It's very
it's not-
informational.
Yeah,
well, I was gonna say, if most of the time what we've been doing, it's just been updating each other, all of us on things we're hearing at meetings we go to, or something that we know is coming up, just to share that, to kind of give a heads up. I don't think too many of them, if any, we were heading toward
yeah,
a decision on or anything like that, but if we need to change our practice of what we do to another title, that's fine. I know some commissions have report outs by name by the commissioner. In this case, I just like the way we do it now, where we just kind of go, this is coming up, we can get,
yeah, whether we change it from general deliberation to general updates.
Exactly,
something.
exactly, some other
I
title.
wasn't too sure.
I tried to look at what.
I did
the
not
statute-
read the
and
whole
It's
statute.
a little
though.
complicated.
I read
Whatever, let's change the title.
I read through quite a bit of it, and a lot of it is procedural on how people make a complaint or grievance. The
Oh.
initial process for doing a grievance that they feel if somebody feels a board has violated the public meeting law, on how they go about airing a grievance, and first it has to be written up and given to the body that, I believe, to the body that is accused of basically making the violation. And then if there's no recourse there or nothing, then they can take it beyond that. Yeah.
Okay, well, and some of that might, I'll spend a little more time with it too, be something that we just put out as a public policy or acknowledge on our website, the process that's been put forward, just so that folks know. I didn't feel anything we were doing was out of line.
Yeah,
I don't think so
we
either.
could just change the topic to sound more like updates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Willing to take advice from
Whatever they tell us is good.
So moving into that kind of a arena, I wanted to, and this is not decisionary really. I mean, I don't think it is. I'm just trying to get feedback, I guess. Capital projects that the county is looking at undertaking, the jail, Justice Center, B Street extension, the fair. In our last conversations with our contracted economic development provider, one of the things we asked them to do was to get involved in capital projects. And that level of involvement, we can spell it out, from managing a project to just being a consult, however we want to do that. And having that in mind, I thought about, and I have no intention or whatever to take anything away from anybody, but maybe having them start to be that consult role and just being involved in the fairgrounds projects, just to be there to provide support or consult of,
as long as it falls within what we're already paying for those services.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, like right now, Ryan is represented on the broadband action team. I had said I'd like to have, the Harney County Economic Development on there, and I would like someone who can always be there. And he's got a great interest in it anyway, so he's a member.
Well, and I think, if staff from the Economic Development Office is assigned to these capital improvement projects, I think the good thing moving forward is as we market different venues and everything, that they can be aware of, we're doing this so that we can hope to create additional revenue for the community over time as we attract more venues and have more traffic.
Yeah.
And do things. And so having them involved at whatever consult level, I'm completely comfortable with,
I think
just so that they're very aware that, we're trying to spur economic development through these projects, and so they can figure out how they intersect with the project too.
Exactly. Like, I'm not asking Brian to give technical advice at all, but he's got his hat on, not only being aware of what Greg Smith
businesses would
and they do in other counties, but also, it just helps.
Yeah. So before and I've talked to Mr. Smith already about this, but before I committed them or had them commit to it, I wanted to make sure we had the conversation before they just start showing up.
They could get on the email list for, specific project meetings and that. And, obviously as we put out the RFP for that sooner than later, the September 18th meeting is the designated meeting for the fairgrounds to go over the comments that were received. And then shortly after, hopefully an RFP process will be initiated, depending on those findings from comments. And
so, and that role right there, definitely with their,
they're on the website this is their staff for us. So, he can decide who
would be the point of contact for each project.
But with their capital project experience, it would be good to have that eye of just making sure that the RFP covers what we need it to cover, et cetera, so we don't get left
and
holding the
Dominic's
bag with something.
looking over that, but another eye that has familiarity with those kind of things would be great.
So I have asked them already to start to in upcoming meetings that we have on our B Street extension project, that they start attending those and starting to get
Yeah,
involved in that.
that one to me is the most key, is it, foreign territory completely with a project like that.
For the record, could I ask you to identify who you're talking about?
Excuse me,
For the record, could we ask you to talk?
our economic development,
Greg Smith's office.
yes,
Correct.
yes. The county contracts with Mr. Smith for economic development services.
Right.
And that's just one of the
I was
new,
hearing Ryan and I'm going like.
well, he's one of
Ryan
their
is
staff.
That's what Patty was referring to.
He's been here, like, that women in business, he was, you know, he's part of their staff. He's here a lot.
So yeah, and then as we pick up the topic again of the jail and the Justice Center.
And the timeline associated with said funds.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've asked them to also be involved in that as well, in the conversation.
And we can ask for their support.
We're gonna
How to frame on paper, you know, for each of these projects, you know, to help us frame how it looks, milestones, progress, phases, so that that can help enable us to continue to seek appropriate funding at different junctures and to show that we're worth funding.
Well, and I think even then becoming familiar with the study that was done at the fairgrounds, and that we're only achieving one of the things through this initial process, that we're going to be going out for other phases of achieving some of the other things that were designated within that plan to try to get improved. You know, and so they need to, you know, whoever is assigned to that needs to get familiar with the work that's been done.
And very much so, like you said, as far as marketing Harney County, once we have these facilities up and going, and our industrial land ready for occupation or whatever, then we're going to be relying on them heavily to market it for us and find venues,
Well, yes, they see what goes on in other counties. They can say, hey, perhaps you guys want to host this type of event there, and you know, this is what that would look like.
Yeah. So again, I just wanted to discuss it a little bit before I just had them start showing up at a meeting.
Yeah,
and you know why they're there.
They can
too.
just, you know, like say, contact the appropriate department heads that intersect with that.
Well, that's all I really had, I think, that I wanted to.
The NRAG chose to cancel their meeting due to too many hunting conflicts.
Tis the season.
Tis the season. There is still a ODFW commission meeting in Bend that will take up the topic of the coyote contest rule. Harney County did submit comments that are provided in the packet that was given to staff. Some local people, including members of the NRAG, are desirous to testify in that meeting, and so I'll probably have a Zoom set up here for them to be able to access it from the courthouse and do that. Farm Bureau here locally is planning on submitting and providing testimony as well. So
that's this Friday.
That's this Friday coming up. Yeah. Okay.
While I have you here, Commissioner Shellman, the fairgrounds, when they do the water sewer lines, I mean, I can see this area here potentially years from now, nothing to do with the fair, but the fairgrounds may have need for structures there that would need access to sewer and water, whether it be emergency management for each building, whatever stuff way down the line. Do you know if those, the way they've got it lined out, will enable?
So you should go spend some time with Howard like I did yesterday,
How would
looking at
you?
all of his mini
How would
maps.
you?
Palmer, he has all the maps, and but I mean, pulled up quite a few.
I mean, with the,
So you can see what's currently there and what, so you have the main water line that runs from in front of the sale barn to the RV park in a very straight line, large capacity pipe.
this way.
Yeah, but your sewer capacity that was originally put in at the fairgrounds, it's undetermined whether that could receive additional capacity as designed. Your power that runs to the RV park runs from the road directly back to the RV park. It is tapped out for the amount of power usage that the RV park needs. And so those would be things that would have to be an upgrade to
So
be
this
able
is with
to.
our local planning folks, not with the contractor.
This
The
is
discussion.
with that parcel that you're bringing up was not part of the work that was done by the firm that did some civil for us for the other project. The parcel you're discussing, my knowledge is from, like I say, my conversations with Howard Palmer yesterday as we pulled up the map and just looked at all the fairgrounds infrastructure and water, electrical, sewer, and then he pulled up the actual, amps available and stuff that was put in as it went through the plan review process. And so,
well, this wouldn't be anything done until there were lots of additional funds and planning done, but I just didn't want anything to be capped off in a way that would be extremely, expensive if that ever happened.
Sewer is always your limiting factor at that grounds of trying to get it. And so we obviously intersect in two different places. The RV park has a specific intersection into the ponds. And then on the very end of the track, just inside the green area, is that other pumping station that goes into the ponds. And so those are your main sewer access where you have to hook into those lines and dump into.
So for future potential scalability, future needs that are determined, is it going to be laid out in a way that we can tap into?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the plan is to accommodate the structure and needs within the structure, but by no means does that limit any development like you're pointing out in that type of parcel. Because you're still going to have to, with each deal, you'll have to evaluate current power availability and some upgraded transformer there. But as far as tapping into what happened with the RV parks, that does, touch that parcel that you're talking to. What was put in does not allow for any upgrades that I'm aware of.
I just
because of the size of pipe or because of the pumping capacity of the pump itself?
I said that was undetermined whether it has additional capacity. We've had a lot of issues with that pumping station already that is very frustrating to say the least, that I do believe the county might look at going after some bonding from the company that put it in if it continues, because that has not operated as said. But I know that the power capacity in itself was designed just for the RV park.
Both know this, but September 21st, that's one of the days I will be in Klamath Falls at 2 p.m. is when our AOC district that we're in, which is District 2, will be having its annual meeting, and part of that agenda is for the wildfire mapping. This is free public comment presentation or meeting. And this is what, Bryce came up, he just overlaid just the normal, what am I looking at for which color? And if you want, if you please zoom in, if you're available and you care to,
I believe I'll be
because that'd be great for you to be on for that one. And I'm not planning any comment per se, but if you're zoomed in, then I'll feel good that if you're hearing anything
my comments will be very similar to what they have been. We still need to allow for acknowledgement of vegetation management that occurs, but as I've talked to some of the agencies that do want us to continue to be able to achieve funding for fire management. You don't want to downplay your fuel load either, because fuel load does see funding to address. And so there's kind of a little bit of a line to walk with that, but especially in private lands, acknowledging the hazard risk and what goes on those private properties as far as management. That was very overlooked in the initial planning efforts. There wasn't, that's something you can't just stuff into a data point and put into a map. And
Did you see a lot of change from the first iteration? I mean, that's what I don't have perspective of is, with the one that Bryce
Yeah,
sent
I mean,
us where we can
still,
zone
our
in.
private lands are still hit very hard. And you know, and to me, that's still the, you know, where it intersects the insurance and everything else. It's just heartbreaking to see what that's done for insurance rates for so many people in this area. And the, you know, because they can say they came up with their own maps, it didn't really, you know, get called out that this was part of the problem, like it should have been.
Like without zooming in and knowing.
Yeah, like
particular
at
people's
this
complaints, I don't-
size, I can't, you know, tell you the changes.
Did you spend any time yet with Bryce's link to?
I just looked at it, but it didn't come to last week.
Right, oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's recent. I just
I
meant,
just looked over
you may have heard from
this.
direct homeowners here, even in Burns and
Oh,
Hines, who said, how come
went over.
theirs is not that way? And I'm right across the street. Did they fix those? Did they fix that kind of thing?
No, because, you know, we encourage folks to, in that comment period, to submit their, you know,
Until they shut it down.
information, and then they shut it down. And so that's kind of a question hanging out there to this mapping effort is what was done with that information that was provided by some landowners? Is it just in no man's land? Is it being addressed? Was it looked at?
Do you still have
That is something that
the old one?
no one will really talk to.
Or did they take them out? I just want to see what changed, if anything, for Harney County.
At this
between-
scale, it's much harder to determine.
Well, here's a. This come from AOC. This is draft Senate Bill 80 wildfire hazard map. Senate Bill 762 wildfire hazard map. And you can see when they've kind of changed the colors a little bit, I guess.
But you're still just a high, medium, low.
Yeah.
Coloring, like say there's a
Whereas
little
they
bit
had
of
extreme, yeah, they cut it back to 3 category classifications.
versus the other.
Well, at any rate, I just didn't want to be there without someone like Commissioner Shellman, who's more involved in it, being
Well,
listening to
there-
the same thing, because I'm sort of not really in great detail on it. I know how to compare two maps and go, oh, why did this change, or why didn't this change?
Did you get this for the District 2 meeting? From AOC? Did you get this?
I thought I just got maps. Maybe there was an attachment I skipped that had just the different
background.
counties. And
Well,
all
I
it
had-
was a one-pager PDF map. It wasn't even very good. That's why I asked Bryce to at least put some roads and.
There was some
stuff on it.
narrative that basically goes into how they,
Who was the
Should be
sender on that?
Brandon, shouldn't it?
Brandon?
yeah,
Mine. That one.
Here it is. So on the attachments they have.
it's the agenda.
Oh, I see. The spatial data? Or no, the assessment. Maybe it's this last attachment. That's fine, mapping. How the mapping is performed. I think what I'm looking at might be different than what you've shown.
I'll-
It off.
I'll find it and make sure.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not seeing an attachment on the wildfire mapping meeting email. There's a link, so maybe you click on the link. I'll get a little more prepared than. For that one, actually.
So
Let's see. And then if you want, I can throw out a couple of the tidbits from some of these AMC meetings that on all various topics. Again, I don't have enough information to be coherent, but at the national level, the Senate Judiciary Committee is at that point where they're supposed to look to whether they're going to reform or reauthorize the FISA. That's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And as we know, that's foreign. Usually the CIA might be involved. FBI is supposed to be more national, domestic related, and they just got all into that. And including whoever the judge was, there was a lot of abuse of the FISA.
There was
FISA stuff, and when they mentioned that that'll be up for possible reform and reauthorization, I said, what is the essence of the reforms they may be considering? And Guy Hendon Harney said, well, mostly that the FBI didn't, they kind of did wrong, so it's not like they have to change it. They need to, not allow unauthorized access, even if it's a federal agency. So, and then the border flow of drugs is just, really something NACO is really hammering about, because all the counties are getting impacted by that. FEMA hazard disaster response. They're trying to simplify the process. They have a very complex calculations that FEMA does for things like how to calculate, what kind of support they can give to certain people, whether it's their homes or whether it's a universal application to align that. And they even have different deadlines that are confusing for if you're applying for disaster unemployment benefits and disaster response to your properties and to all these things. They're not aligned well. They're trying to come up. They're thinking they might want to try to come up with a universal application. You fill it out once, this is not new, right? If you're just doing for the unemployment, that's the only one you click. If you've got other things and have the deadline be 2 weeks out or 1 month out or whatever the deadline is, seems like something that should have been done a long time ago, but that's being talked about. Big issue. The Congress is making significant cuts to the National Weather Service, and the counties don't like it. And a lot of other entities say, don't do large cuts. We still want the National Weather Service to do what it does. So I haven't heard that before. I mean, that's the place where you can always be wrong. Come on. Let's see. One.
I missed an item.
Yeah. All right. Recycling. As we know, there's a modernization of recycling that's happening in Oregon, and China stopped taking US recyclables back in 2017, and so that's why all this is starting to happen. And hopefully after 2028, we will see in Oregon expanded access to recycling, responsible outcomes, working together. There will probably be new permits required related to that stuff. DEQ will have a role in overseeing this, and they are supposed to fund transportation funding to help places that are more than 50 miles away from the facilities that are the next step up from just collecting the materials. So that's key. If they don't do that for us,
I don't want to wait till 2028 on that.
Anyway,
some of the funding was supposed to start in 25, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not going to be.
And then
we need to get under 19. And as the last meeting, one of the first things I'm going to ask for this meeting they only talked about those being relevant to the 13 months, not any of the other events. No transportation money, no.
And I think,
My first question was why are we doing this?
Yeah, we can just skip that step and quit losing money.
Right.
on community corrections funding, as you know, they've taken quite a hit. Cut and you know, they did a 6-year cost study average, and they really were an agency that did a great job of identifying the cost of business for them and their caseloads and all that stuff, and the state legislature never decided not to use it at all. Now they funded them ever. It's really sad. You work really hard, you give them what they ask for, and they don't want it anyway. So anyway, more to come on that stuff. That was just some of the, and then the natural resource steering committee, as Kristen knows, is they have a land subcommittee, I guess.
I have not been able to attend the last 3 meetings because I've had conflicts on those dates, and so
It doesn't feel like natural resources to me. It feels like community development. It's got
the 2 changes in the chair's position. It's taken a big shift of the previous.
It doesn't seem like natural resources. It seems like solar and wind and stuff like that, which may be a piece, but
there's an intersection there, but not.
It's the. I mean, I listen in on them, but
yeah.
It's like it doesn't feel real relevant to us at this time. But that's all I had.
Just so that the county court's aware, in case folks contact you, we have been designated as an area of known wolf activity in the northern west corner of the county. It's called OR 131. If you pull up their ODF&W wolf website, you can pull up the mapping. There's been a juvenile
Is that the list number, OR 131?
that caused the depredation in the county back in January, February, in the Riley area. He has hung out long enough for them to want to turn it into an aqua in the area that he's been being seen in. It's not known whether he has a mate or not at this point. They're seeing 2 tracks. They don't know if it's his twice. Anyhow, Lee Foster and I had a long visit yesterday, and I said how concerning it was that the county was not consulted prior to an aqua being drawn. He said they had just been talking about it. He also just found out from an email that they actually did it. And so he was also concerned by the lack of communication leading up to the actual aqua being put out there publicly.
Aqua definition.
Area of known wolf activity.
Well, and yet so far he's only mentioning 1, maybe 2.
They only know of the one collared one, and his is a maybe not the best collar. It's not pinging as much as some collars do. So
once
they know his general location of where he's visiting the most.
once they've established an aqua, does that come along with it?
So that's when you can now, if there's a missing cattle in that area, you can now apply for missing cattle. But as any of you that listened into the legislative sessions know, that those bills all failed in order to address the lack of funding for actual cattle compensation. The missing is only a very small percentage of the actual value of a cow. And so it's really a laughable process that they feel like they're even compensating you at all if you apply for missing livestock. And it's one of the more contentious pieces with the environmental groups that missing livestock are even allowed to be compensated for. And so some of the discussion that Lee and I had is, as you look at this area that's been designated, you have your original turnout numbers, but then the aqua got put in place partway through the grazing season. And so is there any nuances with being able, as they camp cattle off the range, to be able to account for missing cattle. And so those are questions yet to be answered as we move forward with this. You also, if you have a depredation, in order to be compensated in an aqua, you also have to prove that you've done some level of mitigation. Where if you're outside of an aqua, that's not a requirement. So that's a burden on the landowners now and those that run cattle in that area once that's established. And so that's why it becomes a contentious piece that they just plop one down when they actually don't even know if there's a breeding pair there. And so there's some conversation.
Is that green what you're talking about?
This black
Oh,
line.
that. I don't. Northwest.
And so that's, you know, just, we're going to dive into it more with them. I have a meeting set up with those that put the aqua in to let them know how displeased the county is with how they did it. And if they plan on doing anything in the future, that communication needs to be.
Did they follow their procedures exactly and just not let us know?
Or to double check on some of that. And so, yeah, and Lee has actually, you know, done a great job of communicating with landowners. He's in contact with every landowner and cattle owner in that area, as he knows from the pings from the caller. He's notifying folks and letting them know to be more aware and be more vigilant. So he's doing everything in his power to communicate so that we can lessen, you know, interaction. But there's some sheep up in that area that are now being penned differently. And so we've been able to, at least with that landowner, you know, try to make sure that he's taking steps to ensure the safety of his livestock. That's where that mitigation dollar pot, we kind of held off in making any decisions with it because we knew that this was a situation that was starting to escalate. And now that this has occurred, it'll kind of direct some of that conversation more of how those funds are spent. So October, we're planning on having a wolf committee meeting and going into more depth with this. So stay tuned.
One last thing.
But if you have any landowners or anyone contact you, feel free to, you know, reach out.
Thanks for letting
let them know that, you know, I'm kind of a point of contact with that conversation already.
One thing that's just popping up now. So the broadband action team, I'm just getting from the contractor that they're going to have the rapid design study results ready to present to the broadband action team in October. And maybe we want to have an in-person broadband action team meeting. So far, traditionally the BAT meets on the third Tuesday at 9. Now, if we have on the 18th, if we're not going to do county court on the 18th, because Commissioner Shelman might not be there, I don't know. Anyway, I'm all for having one in person, even if it's just to get our local BAT members together in the same room for at least one presentation. But
and I'm not initially proposing that we move the 18th meeting, but maybe just make sure that the agenda would not do anything that I want to miss. You know, we want to still go ahead and have it and not move the date just to not confuse any people with as much moving around as we're going to do the next month. Okay. But that's okay. We can discuss that more on the board.
Okay.
I have one quick go back to from the AOC governance and legislation meeting the other day. One of the topics was courthouse funding, and they put out feelers for participants, volunteers, whatever, to be a part of that group. So I volunteered for that.
Because we had one on the last round too, so it's good to keep our foot in the door on it.
And that's what I thought. We had gained some momentum from that representation and to not let it go. So I volunteered for that. Sent an email and said I'd be happy to be on that group. Anything further for the record? Hearing none, Harney County Court shall be adjourned at 1:05 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
And do you want me to send you a link to the map?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Thank you.